Hello and welcome back to the Depot Show, where today we'll be talking about Valencia and how we were completely wrong. We'll talk about GSL versus the world, and we'll do a bit of ladder this week.
I have no idea what you're talking about. We were completely wrong. Everything we predicted it perfectly. There's also been a bit of a community update. We're going to be going through that as well, and then we might have a few other discussion points later on as well. But I think we're going to start with the community update. This has just been released from Blizzard, July 19th, and let's have a look here. So,
Yeah,
do you want
so
to take it, Jordan?
from reading through the community update, it sounds like they're pretty happy with the game right now. They call out like a few matchups that they're kind of looking into at the moment, but I think like generally the recent changes, like the Raven changes that they did not too long ago, and the Marauder change, which is like a really recent thing, they're pretty happy with how that has settled into the meta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, yeah. So to go, I was going to start with the ZVP one. They mentioned. I'll quickly read it out. ZVP also continues to have Stargate as the most common opener. This isn't a completely unexpected development, as Oracles and Phoenixes are some of the fastest scouts for early game Protoss, and they can also double back and defend their base in case of an early attack. Beyond the early build choices, ZVP does have a very interesting back and forth dynamic during the mid game and early late game. So we're not looking to make any immediate changes here. So yeah, as you say, they seem pretty content with most matchups in this one, ZVP in particular. It's a little bit of a shame that Stargate openers look like it's not going anywhere soon, but there is some variety, so not all good, not all bad. And then yeah, as you said, TVP with Marauder, they seem to have been happy how that's settled. Do you feel that settled well, or?
So I'll quickly read out what they said
Yeah,
about TVP. So TVP's biggest change was the Marauder buff. This seems to have had the desired effect of making mid-game battles closer, which results in micro and positioning being very important for both sides in order to gain an advantage. We are still observing how the matchup is playing out in this regard. Since Terran have a stronger mid-game, Protoss will have to adjust and discover areas where they can get away with more workers or squeeze in an upgrade. Ideally, both races would be able to pressure each other throughout the game through offensive action, although at different times. So that's the quote from Blizzard. I'm pretty happy with the Marauder change, if I'm really honest. Before the Marauder change, I felt like TVP was like a massive struggle for a lot of Terrans. Like watching the pro circuit and like playing the matchup myself, there didn't really seem to be any time in the mid game where Terrans could move out safely. Whereas with this Marauder change, it feels like a lot better and like as I say, it feels a lot closer, and I find myself kind of winning a lot more games in the mid game now. So I think like some Protossers, especially like at our level, which is like Diamond, maybe haven't adjusted quite yet to the Marauder change, but I think they'll get there.
Yeah, I think what a nice thing to point out with why the Marauder change was so problematic before, or like, sorry, why the buff was necessary, was that mass charge lots became really, really good. Like if you had a good amount of charge lots and one or two storms, it was really difficult for Terrans to fight because if they had a lot of Marauders, the Marauders did really awfully versus the Zealots. They do a lot better with the changes. The buff that the Marauder got makes them much better versus Zealots. Even though it doesn't seem like it, it does make quite a big difference. So if the Terran army built a lot of Marauders, the Zealots survived for so long and would force so much kiting that it would be ineffective for Terran. And if they just built Marines and then Storms become much more effective. So it was really a difficult situation for Terran to build the right kind of army in that scenario. And now that it is better for now Marauders are better versus Zealots. So that really does help them. And it's forced me to mix in some Immortals as well as sort of like not. I was just massing zealots pretty much before this patch and was having a lot of success with it. And now I feel like that's not a wise thing to do. You have to kind of mix it up. You have to really think about your composition more.
Yeah, definitely. I think before the patch, like one of the more common strategies that I saw on ladder was like Zealot Immortal. Sorry, not Zealot Immortal. Zealot Archon, where you did get that like mass Zealot army, and there wasn't really an answer for Terran apart from like a lot of Widow Mines and like teching to late game ghosts. But I think now feels a lot more like stable mid game for Terrans. So I think it was good.
Good change, Blizzard. Good change.
Yeah. Okay, so TVZ. So to read Blizzard's statement, in TVZ, the previous Raven changes have had the desired effect of reducing the ability of mass Ravens to defeat Zerg armies on their own. It has also generated a number of reports that TVZ is now shifted into late game, into the Zerg's favour late game in head-on fights. Having an advantage at different points of the game can be fine, as it provides incentive to tech up in a mirror matchup, rather than invested deeply into lower tier units and fighting with those. But having it be winnable is certainly... I'll try that sentence. But having it be unwinnable is certainly undesirable. We don't think this matchup has developed to the point where a tactic can be said to be unwinnable, but we will be watching for these situations going forward. So it kind of sounds like so the Raven changes for one have had a desired effect of like mass Ravens not being a viable strategy versus Zerg, and they seem to be in favor of that. I'm in favor of that because I don't like massing like one unit per game. I think that's really dumb, and it doesn't feel fair, I guess. And I think what they're saying here is that they don't see an unwinnable situation right now, but one might crop up, and they're keeping a very close eye on that.
Yeah, I want to put you on the spot here, Jaro, and be like, so if the Zerg's got, you're in the late game, you've been pressuring each other all game, but it's gotten to that late game situation, and the Zerg basically has everything he wants, like some Broodlords, maybe some Ultras, he's got Queens like with it, some Corrupt Flying Bow. What is your go-to army? Do you go Ghost Liberator, or what's your answer for it?
So it's a good question. Myself, like, I kind of prefer mech play versus Zerg. So like my kind of desirable army versus like Ultras, Broodlords, and Corruptors is maybe like Thors sprinkled with like a few Hellbats and like a good amount of Vikings. The only thing I see wrong with that is that if they have a couple of Vipers in the mix, then I think it's called Corrosive Bomb.
Parasitic Bomb.
Bomb does quite a lot of damage to the Vikings, and which means that late game, I guess, mech is unfavorable.
I think I think the difficult situation for Terran in these scenarios, sorry to like steal the answer from you a little bit, is that once the Zerg has all the tech parts open up and they have a reasonable economy, it becomes very difficult to know, because they can flow in and out of it quite well. So you can mix in 2 or 3 Ultras and have with your 8 Broodlords or whatever, and have your Queens back in it. And then if the Broodlords go down, you can just remax on Ultras, or the tech switches at that point is pretty difficult.
Yeah. I think like this is the power of Zerg, and it's a very, very good point of like, I don't think there's like one army in TVZ that I'm afraid of, I guess. I think like the biggest fear for me in TVZ is just the flexibility of Zerg late game, where like I can have an answer to one army, but then once that army has been defeated, they can swarm with another army with a different mixture, and my army might not be like like the right composition to face that army. So I think it's a really really good point of like, I think there's a logical army that Zergs kind of aim for, but it's not really that army that I'm afraid of. Is like, once that army is gone, what are they going to tech into next? And I think like, if they've got 5-6 bases and all tech trees open, as you say, like going from Ultra Broodlord to like Muta to then Zerglings to Roaches and Hydras and then into Lurkers, that is the real strength for Zerg late game. I think that's probably what we have to look out for, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's not so much what Blizzard seem to be concerned with, or at least that's not explicitly what they're stating, but I agree that is like, you get to the point where if you're trading even with Zerg in the late game, then you're very much losing. I think
definitely.
Because if you trade armies evenly, the mech army that you build is so much longer to build. It takes so much longer to build.
Yeah, I'd say it's quite weird with mech because there are like parts of the game where you are favored, but I think late game you kind of have to get out of the ground army and maybe go up into the skies a bit more with like battle cruisers and ravens and Vikings, maybe.
Yeah, that's something for you to experiment with, man.
I might do that. To be honest, TVZ like late game is not something that happens to me very often. Normally, my TVZs kind of go into like 10-15 minutes. So, normally, around like the 5 to 8 minute mark, I do enough damage to my Zerg opponent that he can't really recover, or he does enough damage to me that I really can't recover.
Yeah.
And I feel like, late game can happen, but it's rare.
No, that's fair, but it's definitely gonna be interesting. I'm glad they're looking at it and they're watching it closely, and I'll be interested to see what they have to say, especially when it gets to the end of the summer and after BlizzCon, when they might then make more changes. Like they might do the seemingly annual dramatic change where they were shaking it up. It'll be interesting to see what they do then.
I think it will certainly be interesting to see if and what they do this time around.
There was Blizzard also commented on mirror matchups. I'll just quickly read that paragraph as well. For mirror matchups, we are not planning on making any short-term changes. PvP has been historically a matchup where you have opening builds are extremely important, but lately we've gotten a report that it's difficult for games to go safely beyond 3 bases. ZVZ has decent diversity between Zergling Baneling openings and then Muteless-focused games and Roach-focused games. This matchup also evolves in a healthy way into lurker pushers or hive tech. And then in TVT, the early game often centers around cyclones, but the matchup can diverge into different play styles, i.e. bio versus mech, as the game goes on. We're keeping an eye on this matchup in particular to see how it develops. So again, they seem to be happy with definitely ZVZ, some minor comments in PvP, and then TVT, they're again looking, which I think, sorry, you have some opinions on when...
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about TVT later on, but I guess to kind of give a bit of an overview right now, I'm not doing very well in TVT. For myself, it feels good that they are watching this matchup, and they seem to be watching this matchup very closely and might make some changes in the short term, but I think if they do make any changes, they won't really come down to my level. Maybe it will be like a very, very small change that will probably only affect like the top 5% of players. So it's a bit unfortunate because I'm having a lot of struggles with TVT, as you'll hear later on. But
and just to add to that, like balancing mirror matchups is always like a really weird position, and I generally don't like when they make any kind of balance change which is specifically for mirrors, because I feel really resentful of it. Like in PvP, with the Void Ray, they nerfed the Void Ray to make it that it moves slower with the prismatic alignment on with its when it's powered up, right? And they made that primarily as a PvP thing. It's like because it was a problem at points apparently. And I was like, yeah, but now whenever I actually do use them in PvZ, they're worse. Don't nerf me, Blizzard.
Yeah. It's I think Blizzard obviously knows this, but like changing anything in the game can have undesirable effects, let's say.
It's a very fine line, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always really difficult of like, what do you buff, what do you nerf, because like there is like a very, very fine balance in. And I will like say right now, even though I do have a lot of trouble in some matchups, I think right now is probably like StarCraft's 2 most balanced era.
Yeah.
And I think when you get into a point where a game is so well balanced, it's very, very difficult to make a change and not have it affect a lot of things.
Which is actually why I'm really impressed with over the last few years. They've been changing things after BlizzCon, and just seemingly for the sake of it, just as like each November after BlizzCon, they just change things randomly. But it's not been a bad thing actually. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I read the community update last year. I think it was around August or November time. I can't remember precisely. But when I heard about all of these changes to come into StarCraft 2, I thought that it was going to take them like a good half a year to balance everything again. But they seem to like be really on top of it these days.
Yeah.
Because if you go back in time a bit, they've been, let's say, a little reluctant sometimes when they've gotten feedback on certain things to change it. They've taken the viewpoint of, let's change something, wait 3 or 4 months and let it bed into the meta a little bit and see how things play out. But they seem to be a lot more open to feedback now than they were back then.
Yeah, I'm not going to go on too large talk about this, but I think it has a heavy amount to do with just how the gaming industry scene is in general at the minute, where there is very seasonal balance patches to games, like to pretty much any competitive game, like whether it's League of Legends or Dota, or even fighting games, they get like regular patches. Before, Blizzard's intention seemed to be we will never change something unless the game is broken. But now they've come around to the idea that we will just change it because it makes the game overall better. And they've done well so far, so I'm not disappointed by it.
Yeah, I think there's advantages and disadvantages to what they're doing. Of course, like with something, taking another StarCraft game for an example, like Brood War, that has kind of had a very, very stable metagame for a good 10 years, let's say. They've been very reluctant to make any big changes, but it seems with like StarCraft 2, they've been very open to like just switch things around a bit, kind of keep things interesting. I, for one, am a fan of it. I really like it. And to be honest, it was one of before last year when the community update came in, I was not playing StarCraft 2 a lot.
Oh yeah, you weren't, right?
No, I really wasn't. I was playing it like maybe once every 2 weeks or something, because I thought that the game was getting a bit stale and like all of the matchups just felt really wonky to me because I hadn't been playing for so long. And as soon as that community update hit, like the announcement, I was straight on StarCraft 2, like grinding out games, waiting for that patch to hit because I was genuinely excited for it. And ever since then, like, I've actually started to play the game way more now, so...
Yeah, and that seems to be a good trend. Like, we have a healthy player base, and even viewership has started growing recently. I was watching the Pylon show, and they were discussing about that, which is super, super cool. So again, it seems the community management has been able to push things in the right direction, which is really good news.
Yeah, definitely. I think the community is better now than it ever was, to be honest, and it is on the rise, and it is really good to see. It's really good to see because I think like StarCraft, it's one of those games that kind of deserved, you know, a lot of attention, but because of like various things happening at the time and a few blunders from Blizzard, it kind of didn't get the attention that I believe it deserved. But I think now we're Blizzard.
It's in a good place.
What's that, sorry?
It's in a good place, I think.
Yeah, it's in a good place. I think Blizzard have learned from their mistakes, and they're pushing forward really strongly.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's about everything on the community thing. I think most people have been fairly open. It's a fairly neutral kind of thing, and most of the community seems fairly easygoing with it. So yeah, all good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
So let's talk about Valencia and how we were wrong. So I think if you watched episode 1 of the Depot show, right at the end I put in, maybe we were wrong about WCS and maybe Cyril just wins and, you know, we were completely wrong. Well, it turns out Cyril just completely won and, you know, we were wrong. And to be honest, like, the only person who actually put up a challenge for him, I believe, is Scarlet, who went 3-2 versus Cyril.
Yeah. So let's talk about Cyril. Let's get Cyril out of the way first then.
Yeah. He won. It was very good run.
I agree that the Cyril Scarlet game was one of the closest, and was it game 3 or was it game 4? There was a point when Scarlet was ahead in one of the games at match point. Pardon me. Scarlet was ahead at match point, and it really looked like she was going to win. And I was like, wow, she's going to do it. And then, of course, she didn't. But yeah, really close games. Because it was an offline event. So, again, I suppose Scarlet like really brought it in full. I know that in online tournaments, she seemed to struggle sometimes, whether that's due to like just ping or whatever. But man, like it was really, really good to see. And they were proper like methodical games as well. Like she really played Cyril. I think she lost the first game because it was like she tried to like straight up play his style, and he kind of like they just clashed in a mirror kind of way, and he won. But then like she really seemed to like know his play style, know his builds, and like go, all right, I'm gonna do what I need to do to beat you, beat the player, not the race almost. It was good stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing that and we'll talk about I guess like the finals with Cyril and Haas. Like one thing that I kind of saw about Cyril is that you can't really play him at his game because he's very, very good at his game. You kind of have to find where he is uncomfortable, and then you can like snatch maps off of him. Like I think Cyril does very well in the mid game. I think he does very, very well in the late game. But I think like early game, I think that's his weakness right now.
Well, that's actually how he started his dominance like 2 WCSs ago now, but like the one before Austin, which I can't remember where it was actually hosted. But that one, because he came out with a lot of aggressive builds, and this was his kind of like, and everyone was like, oh, now he can do the early game. And then since then he's been dominant. We haven't seen as many aggressive strategies out of him, but like he can do it. So again, this is why he's so dominant at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. I think like he can handle himself in like as we saw, like he can handle himself at every point in the game, and he is very, very dominant right now. I still think he has quite a few weaknesses that people aren't really taking advantage of, but right now, like, I don't think anyone would disagree with me when I say that he is the best foreigner.
Yeah, and when we get into GSL versus well, we'll talk a little bit more about Cyril, because I've got some things to say that I'm interested about that. But to carry on with Valencia for now, Cyril, Scarlet were great games. If you didn't see them, it's a good ZVZ to watch. Cyril versus Reina, it was a 3-0. But again, they were pretty all right games. And again, Reina didn't look completely squashed. Cyril had a game plan. He said in the interview afterwards that he had a game plan against Reina. He knew what Reina was about and what he was doing, so he was prepared for that matchup, and it showed. But again, Reina's put up a good fight. Just to continue the Cyril path, Cyril versus Hero Marine. There might have been some fake caster hype about this, but that was as one-sided as you would expect. I didn't think the games were like super amazing or anything. And then Cyril versus Haas, which, as Joran mentioned, it was kind of trying to play Cyril in some weak. He was trying to probe his weaknesses in the early game and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think we'll definitely talk about Haas in a little while, but
okay. So
yeah, because yeah, but yeah, kind of giving my views on things like Cyril and Scarlet, very good games. Cyril versus Reina, didn't really watch, but I kind of heard that, you know, Cyril kind of, well, it was close, but not too close. Cyril versus Hero Marine, I did watch, and yeah, I think I completely agree with you there, Exo, is that there was a lot, like, sometimes I feel like the casters can overhype a game somewhat, and I think that was one of the games that they did overhype, because they made it sound like Hero Marine really had a shot. Now, I think, like, Hero Marine could probably take a map off of Cyril, but I don't think he could ever beat Cyril in a best of 5. Like, I just don't think that can happen. I don't think Hero Marine is on the same level as Cyril. And then, Cyril versus Haas. Very fun games to watch. Very fun.
Yeah, Haas's whole run was super interesting to watch. And there was a lot of, like, I think, was it the third game? Or maybe even the fourth game, where it was like Haas should have won it, and it would have been 2-2. And unfortunately, he didn't. Again, testament to Cyril's play.
Yeah, definitely.
Can't say it. But man, there's some really good stuff coming out from Haas.
Oh yeah, Haas. I guess, like, move on to Haas a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, Haas, I think, was the very much underdog. I don't think, like, the casters said this quite a lot, and I completely agreed with them. No one counted on Haas getting to the finals. Not a single person in his bracket. Not a single person in the round of 16, like 8, 4, like absolutely no one. And you could see it every time this guy came out. His opponent, like, came out and, like, gave a little grin, gave a little shaking head, like, nah, you've had your fun, Haas. You know what I mean? Like, this is where it ends for you, kind of thing. And no one took him down. Like, no one. It was absolutely, like, so much fun to watch Haas.
I will say, game 4, I think it was, of Showtime versus Haas, because that went to game 5. But in Showtime versus Haas, there was this moment where he did a really sneaky cannon rush on a red shift. Showtime was dead as anything, and Showtime was like, nah, this is not the game I'm going to lose on. And he brought it back with like a hidden next.
That was absolutely brilliant.
And then he lost the next game.
Yeah. It was absolutely incredible. Like, I think if you were going to watch one person's run through this Valencia, I would suggest Haas, because I think, like, his run, like, if you look at some of the people that he had to beat, okay, he went against Special, absolute dominant Terran right now. He went against Kelazor, like, dominant Terran. He went against Nurtio, dominant Zerg. He went against Showtime. Okay, I wouldn't say he's, like, a dominant Protoss for a very, very good Protoss. Like, he went through all these people, and it was absolutely incredible to watch. I think, like, obviously, as everyone is saying right now, I think, like, he can't play macro games very well. Like, his macro games versus Nurtio, even though he won, seemed very
sloppy.
Seemed very sloppy, and it was the same build every single game. And he did the same, like he did the same build against Cyril,
Sterile. Yeah.
where he went. Oh, I can't remember like the precise build. Maybe
It's
you can correct me here,
yeah.
Exo. But like he went into like a 7 gate like all out attack with like a couple of immortals and like warp prisms
And sentries, yeah.
and
But
sentries, yeah, and kind of
okay,
try to out micro his opponent.
the real main thing about how he was playing, and the casters actually brought it up. I can't remember who was casting it, but they did bring it up, and that was simply that he was going like 2 gate Twilight Council opening with no Stargate, and a Ling Flood kills it every time. And the fact he
Yeah,
did this in at least, I think he did it in 2 games versus Nurcho, if not
yep,
three.
yep.
And then he did it in 2 games versus Cyril, and he didn't get Ling
Yeah,
Flooded at any point.
yeah, yeah,
I do
yeah.
that on ladder, I get
Any
crushed.
any other Protoss that tries that on ladder, they absolutely get killed. But everyone at that event was absolutely afraid of what Haas would do, and they allowed him to get to the point where he could play his game. And it was like a bit of a joy to see because it was just Haas having a bit of fun. But at the same
Yeah,
time, I was really annoyed with Nurtio because he saw the build. I think it was
agreed.
like game 2 he saw the build. Game 3 he did exactly the same thing, like same build, same timings, and
Mm.
Nurtio did not do anything about it. Like he didn't react. So when a best of five, and this is like one of the biggest advantages of a best of five, is that you kind of have to switch up your build because if you do something game 1, then game 2, your opponent can kind of react a bit better because if you're doing the same build, then they kind of know what you're doing, know the timings, and kind of can play around that. Like
Yeah,
if I knew that EXO here was going like 4 gate or something, then and like he did this like 2 games in a row, like third game, I would be like, well, I just put down a couple of extra bunkers and I'll like get a tank and like and then that just stops it dead.
yeah, and often with casters, you'll hear them say it's calling. It keeps your opponent honest. Yeah, like if you cheese or something, and then the next game they'll react so they wouldn't lose to that cheese. That's like playing honestly,
Yeah,
and it was like the opposite of that for like
yeah,
Nurture
yeah.
and House,
It
whereas
was
like House was just like playing disrespectfully, and because Nurture like
he
wasn't
was
playing
afraid.
safely, it was yeah, he was afraid, yeah,
Yeah, no, I
and
agree with you. And you'll see this in a lot of best of fives and a lot of best of sevens. Is that at least 1 or 2 games out of the best of five or best of sevens, like each player will cheese, and
mm,
the reason is that they don't want their opponent to be getting away with too much. Like, one thing I kind of sometimes criticize Special about is that he doesn't cheese a lot in like best of sevens,
yeah,
so his opponents kind of know this about him, and like Zerg players could probably like if you were a Cats or something, Root Cats, like back in the day he loved to go like 3 4 like 3 hatcheries before pool. Like you could probably get away with that with Special because you know that he doesn't really do anything until the mid game.
yeah. And again, yeah, especially as kind of one of those players who was just really solid, and that's what he goes off of
Oh
winning
yeah,
with. But like, this is why Cyril is so strong, because Cyril is a player who's not only just solid in his mechanics and his play style, but then can also react as well. Like that's this is why these are all different little elements for why Cyril has like been so dominant that it's hard for players to get a mix of everything for. And it's a shame as well because I think if Nurture had beaten Haas, then Nurture Showtime would have been a great match to watch. But sorry, I derailed a little bit there.
no, it's fine. Like, yeah, no, I completely agree. I think like Haas did very well, but I think he was very lucky, especially versus Nurtio. I feel that Nurtio should have won that series versus Haas. And Showtime versus Nurtio, I don't know who would win that, but I would probably put my money on Showtime because he really showed up at this event.
He did.
And I think Cyril versus Showtime would have been a more preferable finals for me, but
Yeah, I think that would have been a bit more kind of what people were expecting. Um, so I don't know if it would have been awful if sorry, I don't know if it would have been better than what we got because it was so entertaining. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it would have been satisfying if Haas had beaten Cyril. I think it would have been a
No.
flash in the pan kind of a thing,
Yeah, definitely. I
kind of like
think
man at last.
if Haas would have beaten Cyril this in Valencia, Cyril would have just gone away for a month, like trained versus like Haas's type of play, because you can find any Protoss, like any top 50 Protoss on ladder, get him as a practice partner, and they can all execute a Haas's build, and just train against Haas's build, and then you're fine.
Yeah, no, which is just really interesting to me, right? Because Print F, again, another famous like GM Cannon Rusher, kind of very cheesy type player. He he was commenting on Haas about how awful what Haas was doing was a lot of the time. And he goes, or towards the end, he was like, I don't know, I liked a lot of what Haas was doing, but he was still really sloppy in how he was cheesing, which is amazing because he got to the finals. It's a really like I don't know. I hope this doesn't become a trend where in WCS it's like Cyril has one half of the bracket and dominates it, and on the other half of the bracket is this random player who's having like their god tier run.
Yeah, I kind
because
of hope that that doesn't become a trend, because I really do hope that this is like a one-time thing, where I think like Haas did really well in this tournament, but I don't want like one player having like the time of their life in the other end of the bracket.
yeah. So it was a really interesting just scenario. Just to talk about some of the other sort of round of 16 matchups and that the good ones. Reign of Special, it's a 3-0, but it is a good series. Jory, do you have any?
Yeah, I don't think so. Game one, yeah, I enjoyed watching them. Game one was absolutely fantastic. I really suggest anyone to watch that match because it was an absolute like slugfest. I think Special really shows off why he is like the dominant Terran like at this time. That game was absolutely incredible. Game 2 and 3 were a bit of a wash.
Yeah. And again, it was a 3-0, but it really looked close, especially that first game. Like how Special didn't win is a testament to like Rainer's magic.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think like with game one, it looked really like that was really close. Game 2 and 3 for me weren't close. I think with
fair.
game 2 and 3, I think it was a lot of hype, caster hype. I don't
Yeah,
think.
I think game two was the Roach one, wasn't it? That wasn't super
Yeah.
close. I think game three was a little bit closer, but I can't remember.
I
Like
think
game
game
one
two
was
was when Special tried to go mech
I don't remember.
and went into Thor drops, and he lost the Thors to
Oh
Mutas or
yeah,
something.
something like that. Yeah. No, that's interesting. But thinking, Hero Marine DNS. I watched the series. I wasn't super impressed. They're not bad players, like, but it wasn't on the same like super hype level as like the other best ofs that we've already talked about. Euthermal versus Snoot. I'm glad Snoot lost. I like Euthermal.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Snoot, but so
I'm,
yeah, that
I'm
was
really
annoying.
glad that Euthermal went through there. I really like Euthermal.
Oh yeah, and he's back as Terran, by the way. In case you weren't, in case you struggled to follow with what race that Euthermal is playing this week. Yeah, no, he is back to Terran, and he's had like a god tier run as well. He said that he just switched back to Terran and was winning everything. So that race break, I think, sometimes does help. Just reinforce what I think. Sometimes you get in your own head with how you should be playing, and then taking a step away from that, like play another race, play a different game, or just like take a chill.
Yeah,
Kind
definitely.
of thing. You come back and you just have the fundamentals there, and you just go.
Yeah, one thing I will say, like, especially for me, and I know I'm getting off of Valencia, so I won't go on this train for too long, I guess.
Okay.
Like, it was a bit of an extended break, I guess, but, like, the year break that I had away from StarCraft, like, kind of helped me when I came back. I was, like, much more invigorated by the game again.
Yeah.
So as Exo says, like sometimes like you kind of have to walk away from something for a little while, maybe not a year, but like walk away from something for a little while and then come back to it, and then you'll find that like your like mind has changed about a few things.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just like you build up some negative bias in your head, like, oh, I can't win this matchup, or I can't do this, or thing that, and then you forget the negative bias, but you remember how to play, and then things like click. I don't know. It's a hard. I've seen it in quite a few players. Again, even lower leagues. I've seen low league players that have bad habits, like our old friend Kane. Shout out to Kane. He came back into Legacy a couple months ago after not playing for like a year, and he really like. I felt like a lot of his mistakes, which he was like trying too hard before, he had like washed those away, and his fundamentals were all right, and he was doing better. It was really interesting.
I will say that is like good advice for life as well. So, revealing a bit more about like my personal life, I guess. I am like a software developer, and I kind of write software for PCs, and like one of like the general things that happen in that field, I guess, is that you're kind of staring the problem down for like hours and hours and hours, and sometimes like the best thing to do is just walk away from the problem. Like go get a cup of coffee, go get like something to eat, and then like when you're back, like you feel that your brain is kind of refreshed a little bit. So
yeah, there you go. This is the therapy session with Jora and Exo.
Sorry, back to
no, it was genuinely good, and I agree with everything you said there. Where were we? Then it was Neve and Bly. Once we got to that half the bracket, Neve and Bly. I don't remember those games super well. I thought Bly played quite well. Neve hasn't been like completely shown up again, but like Neve looked dominant in that series.
Yeah.
Bly also did a meme opening when they walked onto the stage.
Yes.
I don't know how to describe that, but if you've seen it, you know. If you haven't,
walk maybe. Like
is it the immortal? No. It's an old internet meme, like that thing with the wavy arms.
Okay.
But I don't know where it's from originally. I think it's like a weird Halo machinima thing from like way back in the day.
Oh, fair enough.
Clem Showtime. Going into this, I hyped up Clem quite a bit, being like, oh yeah, I think he's going to do really well, and looking forward to seeing him play. And I wouldn't say he played badly, but just Showtime was just the better player in that moment, in that thing. And Clem had a game where, I can't remember which game it was, but Clem had a game where he was like ahead. And Showtime kind of, oh yeah, they had the base race. Oh man, if you didn't see this, SC2 highlights have put up like a supercut version of this, because it was like a near 30-minute game, which went to a base trade, which went into a draw eventually. But it was a draw that like Clem should have won, because he was a Terran, so he floated buildings. So he was like the best Showtime could get was a draw, right? But Clem had 2 medevacs and a few Marauders and a few Marines versus like 2 Chargelots and an Archon, and it was a really like back and forth micro battle. But yeah, Clem just couldn't quite handle it, and I think if Showtime had been against Special or against just any other more established Terran player, he wouldn't have even tried. He would have just left, because he knew that the experienced player wasn't ever going to think that. But Clem didn't really fully choke, but like, man, it was so sad to see him lose that game. As much as I hate Terrans that force draws.
Yeah.
But
think,
like,
to give a bit of like, good news about the guy. I mean, Clem is pretty new to the WCS scene, so hopefully, like, he can improve very, very quickly. He is obviously like a very good Terran player, so
yeah.
Like,
and
obviously, like first time on stage, you're probably going to be very nervous and like not execute everything as perfectly as say Special, who has had like 20 years of experience at this point. Like.
Yeah, no, that like I don't blame Clem for it. I can't say I'm disappointed in his game, because I feel like he still played well. It was just like, it would have been nice to if he just won that game on Dreamcatcher with the draw. I think that would have been so much better for him. But yeah, it's how it goes. Nurcho versus Harstem. I very much like Harstem, and he played well. But Nurcho turned it on. I thought again, if Nurcho had beat Haas, I think Nurcho could have made his way to the finals. I think Nurcho Showtime would have been a really interesting match this
Yeah,
tournament.
I I didn't see the Nurcio Harstam game, but the Nurcio Haas game, I was very disappointed in Nurcio.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, he was. We were talking about that a while ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
he seemed
yeah.
scared. But again, it was like Nacho looked really strong versus Harstam, and I think he would have given Showtime a good fight. But yeah, the Haas train wreck come in and
Yeah, yeah. And we
and
kind of spoke about that, but so we'll kind of
exactly
skip
yeah.
over it here. But
And finally, Haas Kellezer, which I don't remember it super well. I need to go back and rewatch that game because I think
yeah, I think the
Haas.
only thing I heard about that game was that this is like the only time that Haas used storms in this tournament.
Oh, it got to game three. Or sorry, game five. It went to game five. But in the final game, yeah, Haas actually researched Storm. And I don't know if Kellezer genuinely wasn't expecting it or if Kellezer was like just in desperation because Kellezer was not like it's not like he was about to win and then Haas got Storms and won. It was like a close game where Kellezer was a little bit desperate and he stimmed in and there's like just two High Templar that just storm everything and it's a really painful moment. And yeah, it's the only time Haas actually got stormed this tournament.
Yeah. I literally don't think I saw Haas get any other upgrade throughout any of his other games. Maybe, yeah, I was just gonna say like maybe charge, like maybe. Yeah. Even though he always goes forge first. I mean, what's that all about?
Yeah, that's a good point. I love the idea of like going forward first, can rush into like shields, into like some sort of like random. It's all that you go shields, right? Here's what you do, right? You go forward first into a cannon rush, into fast shield upgrades, into shield batteries. Now your shield battery, each shield battery is more efficient because it's regenerating health. It's regenerating shields, which are depleting slower. The efficiency rate goes through the roof. It's genius. Genius. God damn! Why am I not GM?
I know, yeah. Why are you not more like Haas? You know, like watching, like okay, I have to admit, like I'm not a fan of people like Haas, the kind of cheesy players who can micro really well. But I mean, watching Haas was a lot of fun, but it makes you want to kind of go on ladder and try it out for yourself. Like it's kind of like going on a bit of a tangent. Like when the mothership rush happened to me, I was like, I want to go on ladder and kind of try that out and see how far I can get with it. It's like it feels like dirty, but it also feels good if you can like pull it off.
Yeah, trust me, it does. And actually, this is something. Maybe this bears its own discussion, maybe for next week when I've had some time to think about it. But like, is Protoss legitimately like the best cheesy race? Like, I don't think I don't think like Zerg has some good cheesy tactics, and Terran has a lot of early game openings, but like I just don't see anybody from any other race being able to do what Haas does and what like a lot of these pretty decent Protoss players can do. So that's a really interesting discussion point.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting discussion.
But
I am very adamant, like, even though I haven't done any research into this, and that is like on the spot question, my answer is yes. Protoss has no, I really think that it is true that Protoss has the most tools early game to pull off like an early aggression build, or what we would call like cheesy play.
Yeah. No, that is very much it. I'm trying to think if we've missed anything out. Neeb Showtime, we didn't really mention it. That was a good PvP. Again, Neeb Showtime always have really close, really good games. So
yeah,
if you're looking for PvP mirror, that's like a really high level mirror matchup. I should probably go back and watch those. I'm struggling with PvP. Showtime Haas was comedic. Again, Showtime kind of should have won.
Yeah.
But didn't. The story of Haas. So yeah, I think that's all the game. Hero Marine Euthermal, it was a TVT. Was that any good or use for you? I think you watched that.
No, I haven't seen that game, but again, because I'm struggling with TVT a lot, I am going to go back and watch that game.
Yeah,
I
I
think
did.
like I know that Hero Marine like is a very 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 good player, and like he's not like I wouldn't put him in like the top 5 Terrans, I guess, but he is like kind of a Terran player that I like his style.
And I did watch all of this live. Actually, I booked time off work to do this. Um, and so I did watch Hero Marine Uthermal live, and all I can say is that they both going into it pretty much said to the other that they are out of practice TVT because there are so few Terran players at
Yeah,
their level.
it's yeah. This is it. This is interesting, isn't it? Like,
Mm,
and it's kind of a discussion that we might get into
yeah,
a
yeah,
bit more a bit later. But like at their level, like Hero Marine Uthermal level, there is I can only think of like 3 foreign Terrans like at that level or maybe higher for like TVT, and that's Hero Marine, Uthermal, and Special.
mm,
Like I can't really think of any other Terran that's like at their level. Like you
yeah,
could say something like, okay, the Muslim is very good, but I wouldn't put him at the same level that like Uthermal's at. So it's
yeah.
really interesting is like how the hell do you practice
That matchup,
yeah,
yeah.
that matchup if you have no one to play at your level?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And yeah, and this is the thing as well. It's like where do you go? It's hard to see how they would improve without essentially going over to Korea or playing on the Korean server or but
Yeah,
then micro.
definitely. And I think this
Yeah,
is one thing that Special has done really well is that he
mm,
has actually gone over to Korea and is now like practicing on the Korea ladder, I
yeah,
believe, and he is like far and above like most other Terrans.
yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
TY2, you know.
Is what, sorry?
TY2
Oh
because he's
yeah,
good friends
TY.
with TY. Yeah,
Although interestingly, if Special beat Rayner and then Special beat Cyril, which I don't think would have ever happened, but it would have
okay.
actually been like a TVT semi-finals, which I don't think has happened for like a good 2 years now.
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
Like I can't remember like a TVT mirror matchup anywhere beyond the best of 5 for a good 2 years now.
All I'm saying is, can you imagine this alternative universe where let me spell this out. Special beats Trainer, completely believable. Special beats Cyril, okay, good stuff by Special. Special loses to Hero Marine. Hero
Oof,
Marine goes on to the finals and faces Haas.
that would be great.
Nobody would have known. Like, could you imagine like missing half of WCS, like turning on, go, oh, the
Yeah.
finals are on. It's like Hero Marine Haas. What the hell is going on?
Oh yeah, that would have been great. Like what the hell has happened here?
Oh man. So yeah, overall, Valencia was pretty good. I enjoyed both Austin and Valencia quite a lot.
Yeah, I think
Um,
like very good tournaments. Like I think this year has been
mm,
very, very good for tournaments.
yeah, we still have quite a few 3-0s and stuff, and Austin had a lot of that too. But I feel like the game's been good,
Yeah.
production has been good. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
and
the
overall,
production is out of this world these days.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Have you got any other comments about Valencia?
I don't think so. I think we've
Yeah,
beaten the dead horse.
yeah, it's true. It's true.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So let's move on to GSL versus the world.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
I forgot what was next.
yeah. So GSL versus the world. Now I have to admit, and I think EXO you're the same that like
Yeah.
I don't have much information about this. I know that there's kind of been 4 players from the WCS world in air quotations players that have been automatically entered, and 4 players from WS Korea that have been automatically entered. And there was like a list of players, and we can go through the list if we want, of people that we could vote for to be
Mm.
in WCS versus the world. But I guess like first thing is to list the people in GSL versus the world. So in quote unquote the world side of things, we have Cyril, we have Special, we have Neeb, Showtime, Kelazor, Scarlet, Haas, and Cyan, I believe that was pronounced.
Yeah, I believe it's Cyan. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. If I'm wrong, then it's Cyan, wherever. In WCS Korea side of things, or GSL side of things, we have Maru, Classic, Stats, Rogue, Innovation, Dark, Zest, and Sue.
Okay.
So I guess like we can kind of list the potential players that could have played. So from the Korea side of things, for Terran we have TY, Gumiho, Innovation, Beyond, Alive, and Bunny. Zerg we have Dark, Sue, Solar, Impact, Lenok, Lacera. Protoss we have Zest, Deer, SOS, Trap, Hero, and Patience. And for the available quote-unquote world participants, for Terran we have Hero, Marine, Kelazor, Euthermal, Sather, Massa, and Expect. For Zerg we have Alazer, Nurtio, Snoot, True, Lambo, and Scarlet. For Protoss we have Mana, Nice, Haas, DNS, Probe, and Petite Drogo.
So I have to admit, I'm less interested in, because the vote's already done. I'm not as interested in the potentials. I actually think the vote was very good. So the picks, the eight versus 8 that we've got now in GSL versus the world, I think are very good picks. Good picks, apart from Cyan, who I don't know much about.
Yeah, I've never ever heard of Cyan.
In the tweet that announced it, it was like he was like pre-selected as a China.
There's like an asterisk next to his name that says pre-selected China representative. So it doesn't like it sounds like we didn't really have a choice.
Yeah. So whatever, you know. But I think overall, like I'm happy with the 8 versus 8 we have in here.
I think so.
And I'm looking forward to a few of the matchups, and I want to jump into
really
it.
Looking forward to seeing Innovation and Maru absolutely smash in face.
Well, this is it. This is what I was going to start with, right? The Cyril dominance versus Maru. Like this has got to be.
Okay.
This is. I've been thinking about this, right? And this is the main thing I've thought about coming into this GSL versus the world topic. Is I believe that matchup can literally go any way, and I have no idea which way it's going to go. I can see Cyril 3-0ing Maru and it being a bit of an upset, but I can believe that. I can see Maru 3-0ing Cyril. I can see anything in between. What do you think?
Maru is absolutely top of his game right now, and he is absolutely smashing GSL. If Maru goes up against Special, it's going to be 3-1 Maru.
Sorry, did I say Special? I meant Cyril.
Wait, did I say Special? Oh God, I'm sorry. I meant Cyril.
So, right, yeah, that's fine. As long as we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, sorry, we're talking about the same people. I might have mispronounced pronounced names. So if Maru goes up against Cyril, it will be Maru 3-1 Cyril.
You think it's a 3-1 Cyril?
It will. Maru will get the 3. Cyril will.
Yeah. Sorry,
Maru will drop a map, but he will dominate. That's my prediction.
I don't know. Well, again, that wouldn't surprise me, but any result wouldn't surprise me. 3-1 Cyril wouldn't surprise me. 3-2 Cyril wouldn't surprise me.
I think the only thing that would surprise me is if Cyril actually won.
Wow. Okay. So you think a 3-2 to Maru is possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. But you think 3-1 is most likely?
Yeah, 3-1 is most likely.
Okay, interesting. I really don't know what to expect with that one, because
I think if Cyril does take down Maru, I think that will be like a shock to my system. But I think if Maru does go down to Cyril, I think Dark has it.
Yeah. Okay. No. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because I think Dark is just dominant here.
Yeah, they don't have the bracket or anything yet, do they?
No, they don't have brackets yet.
That's a shame.
I think it will probably be. You remember those team fights where GSL will have their representative.
Have
their representative, and they're the GSL will beat as many people as possible, and then they'll rotate out. I think that will probably be how it will work.
Yeah,
but I'm not completely sure.
I don't know either. Yeah, because it could be a winner stay on all kill format.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I prefer. And Total Biscuit had a series like this with his Shellcraft back in the day, which was where it was pre-announced and there were pre-decided matchups on a specific map with a specific opponent. I can't remember if that's a Kesper format or what. But
Yeah.
I like that idea because I'd love to see some good preparation.
I think that is like my preferred format, but it would be like winner stays on best of 5.
Okay. Well, again, that may be how it'll go. Wouldn't it be best of 7 if they've got 4 players each? I know they've got 8 players each. I don't know how this is going to work, man.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting no matter which way it works. I think like Cyril, like if it is like a winner stays on kind of thing, then Cyril will not be the first one to play. I think like Haas will be the first one to play.
Oh yeah.
And then like try and get him out of the way, and then probably I think they'll try and get. I'm not too sure like whether you want to play like your stronger players first or like your weaker player first, because like maybe they go like Cyan, Haas. Again, I don't really know what Cyan's skill level is, but like Cyan, Haas, and then maybe throw out a Cyril, and then maybe Special.
Yeah, well, I mean, considering we don't know the format, maybe we should focus more on like the actual potential matchups. Is that aside from obviously the Maru, Cyril, and Innovation, possibly Cyril, is there any other matchups you're particularly hoping will happen?
I think either Dark or Sue versus Special.
Special? Oh, I knew you were going to say
that. Because, oh my god, these Zerg players are absolutely killer right now. And I think, like, Cyril... not Cyril, I have these names mixed up in my head now. Special is, like, the only person for me who can, like, maybe take them out.
I agree. I think that... Again, I made the joke about Special being TY2 earlier, but that was not an insult. That's like he's really good. And again, TY versus Dark or TY versus Sue is like a great matchup to watch. And I think Special can he brings his own twist to things and does his own variation on it. But again, it's a very realistic that he could take them. Again, his TVT is very good, so I think he could give Innovation a good match.
Yeah, I really think if Special goes up against Innovation, I think Innovation will edge it out because, again, like going back to like not many good Terran players, you know, at that level, and Innovation I think is like a step above where Special is, but I think Special will give good games if it goes to a TVT.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and this is where I suppose as a concept I can talk about this more now, where Cyril is really good in WCS at the minute and in the European, North American, or in the world, rest of the world, quote, scene. But Special lives and breathes in the Korean scene.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that's why I'm unsure of how Cyril is going to react to these matches, and I can see him doing really well or really poorly.
Yeah.
But Special lives and breathes the scene in Korea, so I think he's going to be consistent.
Yes, it's quite interesting because like different ladders have different metas. Like
exactly.
Yeah, me and you play on like the European ladder, let's say, and like the European ladder has a very different meta game than like the American ladder. And like Cyril, I know he lives in Europe. I can't remember where. I think he's like.
Finland, is it?
Finland? Yeah, I was going to say Norwegian, but Finland sounds right. So he'll play in the European ladder, but as you say, like Special, like he lives in Korea, so he will have a better understanding of the kind of Korea metagame. So I think, for me, Special is more prepared for this tournament.
Absolutely.
I think, like Cyril will no doubt be good, but I think Special will edge it out.
And this is why I think Neeb will also show up at GSL Versus as well, because he's been out in Korea playing in GSL, I believe. And I think this is what a part of why I don't know why he hasn't shown up in offline events in WCS so much. But again, if he is in part of that meta. But if he is in that Korean meta at the minute, then maybe he can pull something out too. So,
yeah, definitely.
like I feel like in this scenario, special Cyril Neeb are really going to be like the big pullers for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Scarlett again has some like good experience out in Korea, as well as sort
Yeah.
of like can really bring it when she needs to. So
Yeah, definitely. Didn't she qualify for GSL not too long ago?
yeah,
For Chess.
and she won the was it the IEM in China? Was that earlier
Yeah.
this year? Or was that last year? I can't remember. Yeah, Scarlett like really can bring it on, and
Yeah.
we sort of give Cyril a good run for her money. It's a shame she's not more like we don't see more of her. She was like really hot like a year or two back, but
Yeah, she was, wasn't she? I
uh,
think like as you say, sometimes like she can really turn it on and like really show up to a tournament. But I think
yeah,
there's like certain matchups or like certain strategies she's not as good against. And I think
yeah,
people have figured that out.
yeah. I mean, Calazur is another like Calazur was really rising up, and I think he is still like at a really good level.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I put him up against anyone in the GSL lineup. Oh man, I
Yeah,
feel like
it's a tough game for Kelazor. Like I
yeah, because
don't think he's as good as Special.
and again, it's not even like oh man, it's like I know Calazur is like very good in his TVZ, for example, but is he very good versus Rogue Dark Sue? Ah, it's
Yeah, I
tough.
mean, going back to like Valencia, he kind of
Yeah,
lost against Haas. I know Haas made it to the final, but that kind of
yeah,
maybe shows you where he's at the minute, and maybe he's not as hot as he was like
yeah.
a couple of months ago. I don't know. I think
Mm.
Kelazor for me is like apart from Cyan, because again Cyan is a bit of an
An
unknown to us.
unknown. Yeah.
Like Kelazor, I think is the weak link in this chain.
Yeah, and also I think the big weakness for Haas is that I'm going to be pretty frank here, pardon the language, but I feel like the GSL they are not going to take his shit.
Yeah,
Like they are going to be like, okay, I know I'm playing up against Haas. Like I will choose you. It's going to be like I think they will really hit him head on.
yeah. I think what
Take
we
him.
were saying when we were in the Valencia segment, like when we were talking about how Nurcio should have been a bit more
Yeah,
aggressive versus Haas. I think like a Dark or Sue would be
will.
more aggressive. Like they would take advantage of like Haas's like antics, I guess.
Yeah,
Because I think they are like again because of the ladders and how like different metagames like shift in the ladders. Like from what I know about Korea, no one is allowed to play on the Korean ladder unless you're from South Korea. But from what I hear of it, like a lot of people are very very aggressive. So Haas is no one new for them.
yeah, that's it.
Haas
I
is just
would.
another name that they'll just take down probably very easily.
The only thing I will say, and again, this is like my kind of upset hope, I suppose,
Yep.
is that Haas's style versus Terran has been very interesting, but he showed some very strong games versus Special in the round of 32 Valencia or whenever in groups, as well as beating Calazur. So if he could actually go up against Maru and like even if he doesn't win, if it doesn't get crushed, like I like really believe in like the power of the Protoss cheese. And if he actually was able to if he was take a few maps off of Maru or win a round, win the actual game versus him, I think that would be amazing. And I don't know if that's like completely dreaming upset potential, because I don't actually get to see that many Maru games, but yeah, or at least not versus Haas. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be super interesting.
Maru is absolutely top of his game right now. Maru is absolutely unbelievable.
So yeah, that leaves really Showtime, who we haven't spoke much about, or at least from the world side. And Showtime, a really solid, stable player. Never looks like disappointingly bad. He's beat Innovation a few times in in quite convincing ways, and he beat Bjorn a year or two back when Bjorn was like super hot, 2-0. Anything as like Showtime sometimes brings it, but I just don't. I'm not hyped about it. So again, hopefully he brings it.
Yeah, I think like if Showtime shows up, I think he'll probably give a good showing. I don't think he takes anyone down because I think this GSL rotor is absolutely phenomenal.
It is. It is.
Like I have so I guess to go into prediction, GSL is going to win, right? Because like I can't see, like, I don't care the format. I don't see how quote unquote the world wins here.
Yeah, I am
Because
kind of with you here.
yeah, there are way too many good GSL players. Like, as I've been saying, like, Maru is absolutely top of his game right now. Classic
Yeah,
is doing absolutely fantastic. Stats and
yeah,
Rogue haven't been hearing too much about them, but
yeah. No, Rogue is still like pretty well respected, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's like it's crazy that you look at like the GSL's lineup and you probably say like, maybe Zest is like the weakest player they have.
yeah, which is like
Like,
weird to
damn.
say, right? Like, Zest is really good.
He is. So, yeah. Once we like, we'll probably do another one. Yeah, this is like 2 weeks away still, so we might even have another GSL versus the world topic before this if we do episode 3 before then. I don't know. So hopefully we'll find out the formatting and we can then.
Yeah, comment a bit more about like how we think things will go.
But yeah, I think it's still going to be some good games. Definitely some good highlight games in there.
Yeah, I really can't wait for this event. I think it will be really good, but I think GSL will crush. Like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because I think like when I go through these names, like if I go through like the first 4 names on like the first Reddit thread of like Maru Classic Stats and Rogue, I'm like, okay, let's ignore Maru right now. Like, who can beat Classic? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
Serral, maybe
And,
a special, maybe need
and
it if he shows up.
and don't forget Rayner, who absolutely showed up, beat
Yeah,
Classic barely in their round of 32 or whichever match it was. And then Rayner went on to 3-0 special.
yeah,
Like, so again, this is like the scary kind of thing. I know it's not apples to apples, obviously, but that's a scary kind of thing for, like, again, we're hoping up special as being part of that Korean meta. So is Rayner, and Rayner crushed it in thingy. So again, it's like that's I don't want to count out special because of that. But again, could he be classic? I don't know. It's a tough one. It's
yeah. I feel like special, like, um, it's kind of weird because he's been such a consistent player for so
yeah.
long. It kind of like feels kind of weird for me to be saying this, but like I don't think he showed up in Valencia for me. Like I
Okay,
think like
that's fair.
yeah,
He lost to Haas. He lost to Rayner. Yeah, I
yeah.
can definitely
Like
see
I
why.
think Reigner game 1 was like the one time I thought, okay, I'm watching special. This is like really him. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't think he did like as a good. You know what it feels like? You remember last year? I think it was like 2 tournaments before like BlizzCon, and
Yeah.
special kind of went out in like the round of like 32 in like group stages or something, and special's like, yeah, okay, I didn't really like turn up for this
Mhm.
tournament. I'm gonna go away for a couple of months. I'm not going to compete in the next 2 tournaments, but I'll be at BlizzCon. You'll see my best at BlizzCon.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
at BlizzCon, he made it to the semi-finals.
Yeah, was that? Yeah, that was last year. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was it.
Yeah, that was like that was amazing.
Mm.
Like, I
And
feel
again,
like he should be doing that right now.
and a lot of last year, again, yeah, he really turned it up because he started like, even though he didn't win a WCS, he like took out
Yes, of
Neeb in
course.
one of them. He's had a lot of really good runs, and yeah, I agree. Like there was a bit where the magic of special really came together. It was like after I stopped calling him Major when it
Yes.
like because he got that good, I was like, no, this is special,
Yeah.
not Major anymore. Because Major was like, I never viewed him when he was Major. I never viewed him as like a top tier Terran.
Yeah,
But then he,
it's so weird because like when his name was Major, like he was obviously like a very very good Terran, but like I would never put him up as like the best foreign Terran. Like I'd probably put him like top 5, maybe top 10, but like
mm,
then like he kind of disappeared for like a year or something, and then like I kept on hearing about this person called Special, and then
Special,
like
yeah.
I find like I had never like saw him in person, and then like
Oh
when he
yeah.
came out on stage and it was like, here's Special, I was like, wait, isn't that Major? Like, and you know, when like I
Yeah.
saw his games and I was like, oh my god, he is
Yeah.
good. Like,
And I will say that as well. That is well, okay. Firstly, to announce, we know that Special or Major, he's had a bunch of different names over the
yes,
years. Like, he likes to change a lot. We know that. In case anyone angry comments, like but he changes. So yeah, we know that. But again, we're talking about that like transformation where he really became solid. And
oh
I
yeah,
actually thought
definitely.
Kellezer did something again a year or maybe even 2 years back now, where Kellezer went to Korea, came back, didn't show up immediately, but then it kind of like had this slow burn on him,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
that was the point where I was like, right, I now know what Kellezer looks like really know what he looks like. And again, I felt like he was strong. And again, it's a shame that in this last year he hasn't like been as dominant. He's been more consistent though. Like he's still been consistently good.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so again, really, it's always nice to see Terran players do really well and those sort of things. Um,
Oh wow, I just realized actually, one thing. Sorry to go back a little bit, but
yeah, go for it, go for it.
one person who didn't turn up to Valencia was Mana.
Oh yeah, I wasn't surprised by that at all.
Okay.
Like I said, I think I said it in the thing. Damn,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
video evidence on the internet. I have to be careful. But I think I said it. But like, yeah, man, I didn't have any expectations. This was like a heat of the moment, flash in the pan kind of thing. Same with Haas. I don't expect Haas to come strong
no. I think
in September.
Haas was a very much one time thing. I think now that people know how he plays, next tournament, I think he'll get beaten.
Yeah, Montreal. That's it. Montreal in
Yeah,
September.
Montreal. I think Haas probably maybe goes out in groups.
Yeah, maybe.
If
I
not
wouldn't
groups, round of 16.
16, yeah. I can see him getting to round of 16, and then there's been a bit of hype, like casting around him,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
getting
yeah.
crushed, like the cast occurs.
Yeah, I think actually the one person who did predict
Barcodes,
Haas going through was Artosis.
yeah. But I don't think to the final. I don't think he predicted to the final.
No, I
But
don't think he predicted to the final. I don't think anyone predicted to the final.
yeah. It was a super interesting
Yeah.
sort of thing. Again, really hope. What? Okay, so something else that I want to talk about, and I don't know if I talked about this with Valencia, like the pre-Valencia sort of thing. But what I want to see more of is a rising star or someone who's doing consistent. At the minute, Cyril seems like the only consistent player in Europe. Like we talk about Special being really good, but not necessarily showing up this time. Neeb hasn't had his like super powered run this year.
Yeah.
Like I
quite
feel like Cyril's
interesting
the
because,
only
like,
one.
yeah, we've had like a few people do it like in the how long's it been now? Like 5 years of StarCraft 2. Like we've had a couple of people like be like like when they were at their peak performance. Like let's say Idra, like
Yeah.
he won like 2-3 tournaments back in the day, and we thought like, okay, this is pretty dominant. But then like he kind of filtered away, and then like the next person came and like won a tournament or two and like filtered away. Like Cyril is like the only person, I guess, apart from like Neeb last year, is like consistently good for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
And as to like to your point, I don't think anyone that I can think of off the top of my head right now is like that consistent this year. Like if it was last year, like Neeb and Special were very, very consistent.
They had a great rivalry going on, actually.
Yeah, they really did. And I feel like this year we're kind of missing that a little bit, because I think Cyril, like, taking nothing from the guy, I think he's a very good player, like an absolute beast of a player, but I really wish that he had a rival, like someone that could take like 2-3 maps off the guy, because at least then it would make the WCS a little more interesting. It's quite interesting. I don't know if you like, this is going way off the beaten track now, but like if you know anything about like the F1, And like when like years ago now, like when Michael Schumacher like was
Oh wow.
yeah, when he was driving for
Yeah, yeah.
Ferrari and like he won like 4 years in a row. Like Michael Schumacher was very, very dominant, and people lost interest in the sport. And this is kind of like one reason that Schumacher kind of stepped down, because like no one was watching the show anymore, because like no one could even
Yeah.
come close to the
It,
guy.
it's that almost boring thing that yeah, that happens. So I do know what you mean with that. And yeah, just to clarify it, oh yeah, I think we may have even talked about this pre-Valencia. Special was the one that took out Neeb in Valencia 2017. So again, that rivalry, like Neeb beat Special in either the quarterfinals or the semifinals, the both WCSs before that, and in the third meeting of the WCSs in Valencia was when Special was able to beat Neeb and then lost to Snoot. But
Yeah,
like it's again, that rivalry last year was super great to watch, and there's a few matches that are still like that. Like Neeb Special is still a good matchup, and again, seeing stuff like Showtime and Neeb is still like they're they're going to be good matches, close matches. Anything with Nurture and like Protoss, I think, is always like a good, interesting one to watch as well. But yeah, and Laser was doing very good last year as well. Like we had a lot of it was like the players who were doing good were very it felt like the overall playing field was a lot more even. I think
yeah,
what the problem is with it's not even that players are doing that much actively worse this year. It's just that because Sero's so strong, it's making it difficult to see how good the other players are doing.
yeah, definitely. I think like everyone competing this year is like much better than what they were last year, but because of like how dominant Cyril has been this year, it's like really difficult to kind of see how much the players have improved.
And I think the unfortunate thing, and I don't see a way around this, but when whatever side of the bracket Cyril is on, the storyline becomes how is this player going to try and beat Cyril?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's an unfortunate, dangerous thing because we've now had it for 3 tournaments in a row where he was the favorite and then he's gone on to win.
Yeah.
And that's like the primary thing the casters are talking about is
Yeah.
how is and it kind of dilutes the storyline of those players a little bit. Like it's tough. I don't know how, but what else do you say when they're versus
it's hard because you don't want to not talk about the favorite, right?
Yeah.
And Cyril is obviously the favorite for any tournament right now, especially like the world base, I guess, and not Korea base like GSL.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it'd be really interesting come BlizzCon time to kind of see how everyone else is like try to even the battlefield.
I think if Cyril wins Montreal, let's ignore GSL versus the world. I'm not sure how that goes. But if he wins Montreal and then goes on and wins BlizzCon, I actually think he just needs to retire as like the first true bonjour of StarCraft 2 and just retire.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
like
that would be a showing and a half if he like, kind of going into theory crafting about Cyril right now. If he keeps this consistency, like I see a very deep run coming for BlizzCon, and if he can like pull out BlizzCon, like maybe Zerg gets nerfed, just like literally because of Cyril.
Yeah,
because, like one person is being too dominant with them. Because like things like that have happened in the past. I know like when StarCraft 2 like first came out and like one or two Terran players were being like very good with Terran because of the like micro capabilities of Terran. Like they had to nerf it pretty hard. So like.
So don't lie. It was like 16 Terrans in the round of 32. That one, but yeah, you are right. That it was because of the very top players.
That's how the game should be balanced, right? Is like like not all the time, but like most of like the top players should have like most of the say. I think like some nice cosmetic things can be put in for like lower league players like ourselves,
Yeah.
where like range indicators or something, where like top players
Yeah.
probably know how far a ghost shoots an EMP, whereas I would love like a little radar around the ghost to show me, like, because I'm really noobish.
Like the disruptables and stuff.
Yeah.
Have them. Yeah, and tanks. Yeah, no, it's a good point. Well, we will see, but hopefully, well, as long as it's good games, and again, if Cyril can raise the overall level of other players as well, I'll be super happy about that. If other players get better at a quicker rate because of how good Cyril is, that's really good. And I think we have seen good games this year, so
Yeah, definitely.
that is good. Yeah, anything else GSL versus the world? I think we'll wrap that topic up actually.
Yeah. I think we've wrapped that up.
Fantastic. Whew. So I think it's that time of the show when we've gone through all the industrial kind of stuff, or industry stuff, industry stuff, and now we go back to let's bring it down to our level. Let's talk about this week on ladder.
Oh baby, I love this section.
Yeah.
Right, let's stop talking about like the top players in the world, and let's talk about the diamond players of the world and what they're struggling with this week.
We put all the important stuff first, but now we get into it. You know?
Yeah. I love this section.
Oh right, okay. So do you want to go first? What have you been having this week, John?
So I think like one thing I would like to say straight out the gate is that like this week I actually got back to 4,300 MMR on the European ladder. That felt really good because for a long time there, like my MMR was slipping pretty hard, and getting back up to that level felt really good. I think like the last week and this week, like I think I've been playing like pretty solidly. I think like if I can maybe learn how to adapt to some scenarios a bit better, I think like I'm probably playing better than I ever had before. So that feels really good.
Good man.
Kind of taking it like down a level, I guess. And like let's get into our first subject is like TVT. Yes. So I kind of brought this up on like episode 1 of the Depot show in like, you know, this week on ladder, but like it's only been a week, and poor old Joro here has been having such a hard time of TVT. Like even before this podcast, I was like, I was playing some StarCraft, and yeah, I think like I literally have to just stop playing the game, go back to square one, and just learn how to play this matchup.
Listen to this Terran heart bleed. Listen.
I know. I literally right now, as it stands, I have no idea how this matchup is supposed to be played. And I think like that is my doing. Because of the things like I've got a list here of like things that are kind of hurting me right now, things of like doom drops of like I have quite a lot of Terran players like just boost 5 medevacs into my base, drop like 4-6 tanks and like a ton of marines in my base, and like I don't really know what to do in that situation, because they're in my base with like that many tanks. I can't really like get a good concave on the tanks or anything, so like maybe Vikings, but like 4-5 dropships are quite a lot of dropships. Mech play has given me a lot of trouble recently, so this is kind of early game harassment into mech play. So it was quite good in Valencia. The one game of TVT that I did see, I believe that Kelazor was going mech and Hero Marine was kind of competing against mech. And Hero Marine did this like switch into mass air. That was really interesting. So the idea behind this is that you commit real hard into Vikings and then you try and win the air battle, and then like you have your liberators kind of shoot down the mech army, because like things like tanks and Hellbats obviously can't shoot up, so you know you
Yeah.
kind of have to think about Thors and how you deal with those guys. But like for the most part, most people want to be going tank, so I feel like that is like something I want to try out a bit more, and maybe not like lose versus mech as much as I do. Normally, like what I do versus mech is like I kind of try and harass with my bio army a bit, but like I kind of tech up into battle cruisers because I feel
Yeah.
like battle cruisers late game versus mech is kind of like the answer, but maybe
That
it's not.
yeah, makes sense. I think that makes sense. It's just that it's can you survive to get enough battle
Yeah,
crew?
yeah, exactly. It's like, can you get enough supply in the battle cruisers before they kill you, or
So,
before they go into battle cruisers? I guess.
so I do want to ask though. You said about relearning the game or relearning the matchup, TVT matchup.
Yep.
How do you think you'll go about that? Like, are you gonna like learn different builds from different players, or watch VODs? What have you got any ideas for it? Or
I haven't really thought about it too in depth right now, but I think like what is going through my head right now is that I'm kind of going to try and look at my last, say, 10 TVTs and kind of
okay,
break down what I've lost to and kind of list them onto a notepad and kind of like think of ways that I can address them or like how my current build could address them. But I think like I really don't think that I have like a good like setup. Like my brain just doesn't have like what it takes to win in this matchup anymore. So I do believe like what I'll probably do is like, as I say, like just go back to square one and like watch as many VODs as I can, kind of listen to the casters and like to hear like what they think is good, what they think is bad, and what they think is a close game, and what they think is like a bad game, and yeah, watch a ton of replays and maybe like compare like a hero marine replay to like one of my own and kind of see like supplies and like
that's a good
what
idea,
kind of builds that he's going for versus what I'm going for, and what times he's moving out and what times I'm moving out, to try and get a good feel of like what I'm doing wrong.
And another thing that might be worth asking is the All Things Terran subreddit. I think you've mentioned it before.
Yep.
Anyway, but when I was off racing as Terran, I was asking some advice over there, and they were really helpful. So I don't know if that'll be as relevant for you, but
Oh yeah,
generally,
definitely. I know in the past I've asked that subreddit a few questions and they've really come through. Like sometimes I feel like I've asked for like no one likes TVP over there, so like sometimes when you ask about TVP, there some people say, "Oh, just proxy like 2 barracks or something." You know, like, well, it's not really how I like to play, but you know.
yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I would recommend going over there and seeing
Yeah,
if they
yeah,
can help you out.
definitely, and
Just with,
seeing what people have to say.
I
Um,
think knowledge is a really difficult one there because if you can get the numbers in your heads, like what to scout for, when to go, maybe I don't know. But yeah. Sorry, I'll let you go on. You sounded you about to say something.
No, it's fine. No, I think that's a very good point of like, it's really nice to have in your head of like, okay, when can a Banshee attack? You know,
Yeah.
when can a 2 tank drop attack? When does this specific thing happen in the game for me? And it's around this time, and like, okay, what are the steps I can do to prevent that? I think like one thing that I think I really need to improve on is like scanning the main base and seeing what my Terran opponent is up to, because I feel like I try and like in my games I try to kind of counter everything in
Oh
my early
man, I
game,
know
which
that feeling.
what's that, sorry?
I know that feeling.
Yeah, which kind of, takes up minerals in the early game, and then mid game I'm kind of behind because early game I've made such a big investment into defending everything.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
that's definitely like one thing that I can improve upon.
well, I empathize a lot with that because so obviously I main Protoss and PvP being my mirror matchup, and I'm struggling in a similar kind of way. I don't feel like I quite need to reset. Like I understand the basic main meta openings. And I play kind of an off meta style because man, I just don't. The answers to things just in PvP are kind of weird. I was actually enjoying it last week because I found a build, or last episode, I found a build that worked, and it was a macro opening where you could get a really fast nexus, but you got 2 gates, and you just opened stalkers, and it was like into like a safe defensive 4-gate robo kind of a thing, and it sounds kind of stupid, but it was working for me really well. And then it kind of. It's kind of gotten difficult because, similar to what you were saying about TVT, it becomes impossible to scout. So you have a probe at the front, like checking to see if he's taken a nexus, like hidden behind his natural minerals, where you can see if the nexus has gone up. But if the nexus doesn't go up, you have to try and defend everything. You've got like 4 stalkers, and you've got like a shield battery at the front. You need to put a shield battery in each of your mineral lines in case it's a Stargate. You need a robo up for the observer, and you need to scout like for proxy pylons in case it's just like a 1-base 4-gate all in or something. Like, and what I keep doing is when I catch it, I sometimes am able to win, but most of the time, even by the time I've caught it, I've spent so much trying to defend the other things that I've fallen so far behind. It's a really difficult matchup to like know what to do in, because getting consistent scouting like early game when you've gone for a fast nexus yourself is so scary. Like maybe I need to rethink the builds, and it's because I don't know go on Stargate as well. Like it's a really tough matchup. That's like my PvP problems on ladder is all around that. Like Stargate is king, and the reason I say this as well is because the shield battery is an amazing thing, right? It stops one oracle from being able to wreck a mineral line, right? But really, that's not the case. It delays an oracle from destroying a mineral line. I had a Protoss try and do a multi-pronged thing where he attacked with some stalkers whilst doing the shield battery thing on 1 base. This was, and I don't know how long his oracle had been out for, but it got into the main. It turned on its beam, it drained the energy of the shield battery, and then killed 12 probes. Ooh. While I was defending this thing. Like I knew it was there, but I was like, no, it's got a shield battery there. Yeah. But it got through 12 probes even after the shield battery engine. I was like, damn, what's the point of even putting a shield battery up there? And obviously, because it is a bit more of a greedy opening, and this guy was 1-basing, like I only barely had enough to hold that initial push at the front. And obviously, he then killed me with a follow-up push afterwards. I lost that game. But it's like, man, that's like so, like, that was one of those games where it's just like, oh, man, why do I bother doing this opening? Yeah. Because it just dies to it. And then also with Stargate, if they see the shield battery flying, see the shield battery, they leave, and then they come in with a second oracle. Yeah. And then 2 oracles, like, just ignore a shield battery. The shield battery doesn't do anything.
Well, it's quite interesting, like, moving a bit away from, like, PvP, but still relevant, I guess. Like, TvP, yeah, like, it's interesting to me that a lot of, like, pro players are going, like, Banshee openings versus Protoss these days.
Ooh, I haven't seen a lot of that, but that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it is quite interesting to me because, like, you know, one Banshee, if there's, like, a shield battery in the mineral line, like, they don't do any damage because it repairs, but, like, you know, if you can wear down the energy or, like, get 2 Banshees, then you start doing damage. But, like, it's quite interesting to me that, like, some people have kind of, like, fallen back to the Banshee play.
No, I love it. I think as an off-race Terran player, I think Banshees are an amazing unit, and I really do like seeing them play. They can be kind of awkward to deal with, Protoss, but they are. It's the tech lab investment that's the problem.
Yeah. This is why a lot of Protosses are going Stargate, right? Is because oracles can detect Banshees.
Yeah, no, I suppose that is part of it, actually. I have to admit, I don't play a lot of Stargate in PvT. Maybe I should, because I'm struggling in PvT a bit as well. But yeah, I don't really know the main reason why. You can get, basically, the Oracle is always going to be able to get a scout off. which is a really nice, consistent thing versus a Terran, because then you can prepare for that mid game. And if you prepare well for the mid game, as like the Blizzard update said earlier, once you know your position and you can squeeze out an upgrade, that can make all the difference. So the consistency is nice. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the one big weakness of Oracles, what I don't like is Widow Mines. Like, and we
Widow Mine shot can take down an Oracle.
I don't disagree with it either, because I feel like without the Widow Mine, it becomes kind of like Stargate every game. I could see that happening. But
I think like one of the reasons, and I'm sorry to take over here.
Yeah, it's fine.
But like one of the reasons why one Widow Mine does take down one Oracle is, if you remember in like Heart of the Swarm, where people always proxied a Stargate because Oracles were new and no one knew how to take them down, and like people were like hiding Widow Mines like all over their bases to take these things down.
No, I think it's an appropriate counter, in all honesty, because while Marines with Stim or Marines in just enough numbers deal with Oracles, I do think that they're so strong early game that
Oracles are really, really strong. If I remember properly, like I don't know if this is the exact number now, because I haven't really calculated this in a unit tester, but it used to be like 6 Marines take down a Oracle, but that is with like 0 micro. And the 0 micro thing is actually really interesting, because if you actually stutter step with 6 Marines, then the Oracle can win.
That you actually hit the nail on the head there. That they need to fire consistently, and once they get combat shields, it takes 3 pulsar beam hits to kill a Marine. So again, once combat shields is there, it's a different kind of thing
with Stim and combat shield.
But yeah, that early game thing. The bit that pains me, and we see this at the pro level occasionally as well, is the Oracle will fly in, and then it won't go into the mineral line because it thinks there's a Widow Mine there, even when there's not. That's painful, and I can't deal with that anxiety on being like maybe
with the anxiety of cloaked units.
No, not cloaked units, but like I want to go in there, but I can't because might be a Widow Mine.
Yeah.
And I'll lose it. I'll lose it to the Widow Mine every time.
If you look at the ground very, very carefully, you can actually see. Like, you can't see the unit, but you can actually see the burrow Widow Mines.
Yeah, it's not impossible to play against, and I think the Oracle still has good purpose outside of harassment.
Yeah, definitely. I think the vision is like a massive thing.
I might go and play more Stargate openings versus Terran and try that out more.
Yeah, I think as I say, the constant, if you keep on tagging the Terran army with vision and stuff, I think that's really helpful for
it is. But then observers are really good for that as well.
Definitely.
Which
especially
is more my style.
They can siege up and see everything.
Yeah. As a bit of a follow-up while we're talking about TVP, based on last week, I did say that I would try and be more aggressive versus Terrans with Blinkstalkers. Because I go Blinkstalkers as an opening, and I get 6 Blinkstalkers pretty blindly, at least. And you were talking about how if the Terran doesn't build a bunker, you can get in and get a lot of damage.
Yep.
So far, I don't know whether it's because of my build or just either the Terrans I'm facing. No Terran has skipped the bunker when I've done this. Yeah. So I don't know if this is a meta thing because they see, or if it's because they see Twilight Council. But so far there's been I've not won a game straight up because the Stalkers get in and there's not a bunker.
That's actually really interesting to hear, because if you watch a lot of pro TVPs these days, not a lot of Terrans are getting bunkers.
Yeah, and I don't know again if that's because I open up Twilight Council first. So I don't know whether that's a reaction, but yeah, I've tried doing it a few times, and I haven't had any major success with it, is what I will say.
Okay.
It's not won me any games. It's done a bit of damage at points. I've had to recall once or twice because of a drop come in, and I think it's safer to recall than it is to
walk back.
Or try and do some kind of you haven't got a lot of units here, so I'll blink forward.
Yeah, you don't want to be base rate
and
Terran.
And I have had a Terran build siege tanks, and I will say
Yes.
that the siege tank answer is really effective for it, because once you get in there, there's no point in you staying there. Maybe certain Protosses can be really aggressive with it and try something,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I
Well,
will say the Terran, the mech, yeah, tanks shut it down.
yeah, yeah. Well, one of like the talking points I have on here is like I've been getting quite a lot of like TVP like early game aggression builds kind of being pushed against me, and I feel
Hmm.
like I think now at my level, I think like I really need to start attempting to go into tanks. Now there is actually like I think it was Maru who actually did this build who like went three tanks
Oh
early
yeah,
and
yeah,
like pushed with the three tanks and like it does really well actually. So I might try out the build, see what I think about it because like
yeah.
right now I'm
Uh,
losing like so much like I'm losing a lot early game versus Protoss and I think like if I go like 2-3 tanks early game then that shuts down like all aggression because siege tanks versus stalkers is absolutely
yeah.
horrendous. Like
I
you don't want to be the guy with stalkers, let me tell you.
I do want to give you a cautionary tale with the three tank push out, because I haven't seen the game where Maru did that, but I've heard about this and I've seen in pro games as well other Terrans do this, and sometimes it feels really wonky. It's one of those things that Maru made work, and maybe it's because of what he scouted or how he reacted, but I haven't seen it be very successful otherwise. And as someone who goes blink into charge early on, like I've crushed pushers like that as well. So I'm not saying don't try it, because I think you should, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
interested to see. I'm a somewhat skeptical about the push. I think as defensive tools, amazing, and you want to do something with it if you built it. So yeah,
Yeah, maybe if I see like an aggressive build, like
or a
maybe it just
cheap.
turns into a defensive thing. But if I see more
Yeah,
of a passive build, then it can become more of an aggressive thing. And
yeah.
like
No, I
maybe the
like that.
tanks, like if it's more of an aggressive build, like maybe the tanks will allow me into like a stronger mid game.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't always have to be about like the
No, no,
initial.
I agree. I just wanted to let you know
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Thanks, man.
that that kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, so well, going away from actual matchups a little bit, and I don't know if you've been having this. Man, I've had some massive MMR spikes and falls.
Did you not hear
Not
what I said about in the first like my first thing? how I how I got
you.
back to 4,300 because I
Oh,
was at like 4,100.
yeah, yeah. Sorry.
So yes.
Sorry. I meant in my opponents.
Oh, in your
I've been
opponents. Okay.
Yeah, so I've been around 4-3 as well. But I've faced a lot of Master 2 players who are
Okay.
ranked Master 2 but are in Master 1 MMR. And then I've had a lot of I played, so to give you an example of this, I looked through this earlier. I played 8 games this morning, right? And 3 of those games were against 4,100 MMR players. This is not in order, by the way.
Yeah.
3 of the games were in 4,100 MMR players. Sorry, three 4,100, 4,800 MMR players, and I had 2 games against the same guy who was 4,300, and that's really weird to me that happened.
Yeah, I kind of have this when I play on like the American ladder a lot. In my because like my MMR is a bit wonky there. I
Yeah.
play against like a lot of like higher MMR player, and then if I lose a game, then they try me against like a because I don't play a lot of American ladder
Oh yeah.
games.
So yeah,
It kind
maybe
of
it,
tries to guess where my skill level is at, but it's having a real hard time because I don't play enough on that ladder.
yeah, maybe that's part of what it was, or maybe it was just like a really like 8 games is not a high example, and I've faced 146 or 147 player the other day as well, but
Yeah,
that was like a random
but
anomaly.
I know that this has been like a bit of a consistent complaint since like Wings of Liberty is that the matchmaking system can be a bit wonky sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes like when it can't really find a player at your level, it like climbs
yeah,
up MMR, so you won't be waiting too long.
yeah. Maybe it was just my timing of thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
what
maybe, but
what
it's
I
really
will
weird, I will say.
what I will say is two of the 4-8 guys I played were Terrans, and the other was a Zerg, and they all beat me, which isn't too surprising. But the two Terrans were, man, they were scary good.
I'd absolutely love to see those replays.
Yeah, I'll bring it up because one went really heavy Widow Mine. Basically, one went reacted factory, and then just kept building Widow Mines the whole game.
Oh,
and he had a lot of mines, and his multitask was all over the place, and he was really solid. The other one basically killed me with a 2-1-1.
Oh, okay.
And this sounds really kind of silly, but he went 2-1-1. It hit at a pretty reasonable time, but like I say, I opened up Blink Stalkers. I had 6 Stalkers in my main, and I saw the drop come in, and I was like, "Oh, that's okay." Most players at this time, before the blink happens, they turn around and fly away. So I won't blink immediately. Man, that was a mistake. He was like, "Nah, mate, I've done this 2-1-1. I'm coming in here." 16 Marines.
He committed hard.
16 Marines with stim, man. And it's like, well, I've got a bit of kite ability, but then my mineral line is like right there. And he like chases me down into my natural mineral line. And it's like he kills like he kills I think 8 probes and 5 stalkers. And then gets out with the medevacs. And it was like, oh man, that was brutal. And then he does a follow-up push and kills me. But that was like literally, I was like, man, I am so scared of drops now. The other Terran did a Widow Mine drop, which was, again, I had Stalkers in position, and he just went for it anyway. And I didn't split amazingly well, but it wasn't like the most devastating thing. And then I saw that he was building a lot of Widow Mine, so I went into Colossus. But I never got like that critical mass up. And then we went to like this weird base trade thingy because he was so good at dropping me in multiple places that I kind of pushed for a base trade, and I just lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
I
always
thought like Widow Mines weren't like the greatest thing if the opponent is going like either Disruptors or Colossus. Like against like Zealot Archon or Zealot Templar, like then it's really fucking good.
So yeah, like really interesting to see. I like playing players that are better than me. If I could have faced that 2-1-1 Terran a few more times, just to see what his mid and late game was like. And to see if I could have compared to him there, that kind of practice is good. But man, I'm not quite ready yet, I think.
yeah, definitely. I'd love to like know more people in the scene that are around or above my level that like I could have as consistent practice partners.
Yeah.
Especially now that I need to like do the TVT like rethink, I guess. It would be really interesting to kind of have like a Terran friend again around the same level or higher than me that I can like bounce ideas off of.
Yeah.
Because like maybe like he figured out something I haven't, but you know, maybe this podcast can help.
Yeah, maybe.
If anyone watches it.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, well, I've talked about PvP. I've got one more. Have you got anything you want to add before I jump in with another point?
No, go for it.
Okay. So this is a brief one. I mentioned it kind of last week as well. PvZ, a lot of Zerg go for this off pool timing where they kind of, it's not a 12 pool, sorry, but it's not like a 17 hatch, 17 pool kind of thing. It's like this kind of, I want to do a pool. And then if my overlord sees that you're not respecting it and walling off, I'm going to get at least 4 lings into your main, and I can just ling flood from there if I want to like thing. It's a lot of flexibility to Zergs, and I don't like playing against it because I feel like it's a really like it kind of puts a lot of pressure on Protoss to make a key decision early on about whether you were going to go for a safe, much slower economy, or if you're going to go for like or if you're going to like just disrespect it and just like say, well, you've spent your economy, you can't do that much, I'll play against it. And because I'm not very good with dealing with lings early in my base, I will play defensive and then do a counter aggression sort of a thing. And why I bring this up is actually because I don't understand where the meta is with this. So, because what I've had 2 players this week, and to be fair, it's only 2 players, but I've had 2 players this week who I've played this style against, and I have a very specific build now, where I deal with this, where basically I do a 3 zealot, 2 adept push really early on, and then I go DTs behind it while expanding quite defensively, and then I if there's no spores, if I scout no spores, I run the DTs and often win. I've had 2 players BM me because of this play style, right? They don't like going up against this play style. One guy called it cheesy, the other guy seemed just generally frustrated. But like I say, this first guy who was like didn't like how I was playing the matchup that I decided to play this way, and I'm just like, but why are you going these weird pool timings that make the Protoss have to do something? Like, you're forcing a reaction. Like, so if this is a meta thing, oh, fine, whatever, right? If it's not a meta thing, fucking your Zerg's got to learn some respect. If you're going to do some weird shit, you might lose to some weird shit.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's quite interesting because, like, in the past, like, I've had, like, similar things where, like, people have been doing, like, kind of off-timed attacks or defenses and things. And I've kind of gotten into their base, and then I've kind of got, like, been called cheesy because, like, I've faced it a couple of times on ladder and, like, kind of know the response. And then, like, as I start chatting to these people, I'm like, well, if you don't want to die to this attack, then just don't do the thing that you're doing, like, say, an off-time pool or wherever. And they're like, oh, no, but this is so good. If, like, the opponent doesn't do what you did, then it's really good. But it's like, yeah, but I did do what I did, so
yeah, it becomes a coin flip, and I think if the player who's doing it doesn't understand it's a coin flip, then it's a sort of thing. And I can kind of see why it's frustrating in my scenario, because the way I like to look at it is that almost like in chess, it's a gambit, right? It's the Zerg opening gambit where it's like either you respect my my opening and you decline the gambit by like saying, no, I'm going to play safely, or you accept the gambit and accept that I'm probably going to get 4 lings into your base, maybe nibble at a probe, get a full scout, but probably not do critical damage, you know? But I'm like, no, I don't accept or decline this gambit. I punch you in the face. And I don't know if that's like why it's frustrating, because if this becomes a meta thing, if they've seen it and they've played like 10, 15 or a lot more games where they understand the process, but I don't, and I'm doing something weird because of it, I can understand why it's frustrating. But in the same vein, this is going to be like counter aggression is going to be a reaction. So I don't know.
I just really enjoy the chess analogy.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm not very good at chess, so I don't even know if I used gambit correctly there. But let's say I did.
Yeah. So yeah, there's the Queen's Gambit, the King's Gambit, and and you can either accept or deny.
Yeah, exactly. I've read up on some chess before.
Brilliant.
Oh,
I love it. That is like a really good analogy.
Good. Yeah. So that's my main week in ladder. I had some fun moments as well. I want to start like I don't know how to bring in. I need to like write down when I have some funny moments. I had
definitely.
I had a Terran player who in the late game wanted to suicide all his SCVs, so he ran them into my base. I completely missed it. We went to a base trade, and then I realized there was like 30 SCVs attacking my building. I had no idea how they got there. I had to watch the replay to see when they moved across the map. It was hilarious.
Brilliant. I love that.
And yeah, I had a few other things, but I can't actually remember. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. But yeah, fun times.
Yeah, definitely. We might complain about a few things on ladder, but trust us, we absolutely adore this game and probably will be playing it for years to come.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's kind of like our section on Week on Ladder. We've kind of got some other discussion points. So these are kind of miscellaneous discussion points, I guess?
Yeah, this was... yeah, that's it. Do you want to do yours first or mine?
I guess I'll do yours first. So I've kind of seen this video, but this is the Rotterdam video on barcodes.
Yep.
And I guess you want to talk about random on ladder. This is kind of something that you picked up last time, right?
Yeah, I didn't really get to talk about it last time because I was tired, and we went on for a bit. But I'm going to mention it here. So, firstly, Rotterdam put out this video, and I agree with what he says. He basically says that barcodes are bad, and we should be trying to discourage them and go away to everyone using their IDs on ladder. If you want to his reasonings, go watch the video. The
Yeah,
pylon show.
I'll try and leave a link to it.
Good call. The pylon show already discussed this as well, and they seem to agree. So I think it's really, some pros don't want to do it because it gives them better practice. But I think the main reason why I agree with this is the fact that the Korean scene for Brood War has actually developed some big meta shift, or maybe not big meta shift, has developed more meta shifts and had better player growth since Kesper disbanded. What they ended up finding was that when people were less directly competitive of a money sort of thing and were more just trying to get better, the scene was improving as a whole. So I don't know if that would directly relate into StarCraft 2, but if the idea that everyone could get better if everyone played more honestly, then you get better practice, you get to play against the things you're weak against, and everyone like gives honest advice for why their build is strong and what's weak against it, and then it cuts down the time of people figuring things out. For it. And so I'd like to see that. And Rotty also mentioned a few other things like putting MMR on the loading screen, to again, partially to discourage, partially just to like, you know, give a better view of what you're going up against. I would love that, especially since the Masters badge that I have shows on ladder, and I've had one of the 4-1 players I played earlier accused me of leaving games to face weaker opponents.
Yeah.
Little did he know I just faced 2 fucking 4.8k MMR players, but whatever.
Yeah, no.
He didn't know that, and he was frustrated.
So
yeah,
I guess my viewpoints on this is I agree with the barcodes, and I think yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I know. So Rotty, I think the argument that convinced me was when he was talking about so you know, you're Tom 154 on the ladder or something, and you go against a barcode, and then like you face like next game you're up against a barcode, and then you're Tom 154 again, and like, you know, that is now the same barcode, so he kind of knows your build, but you don't know that it's the same barcode. So you can't really react to what you know about this barcode because like there's so many barcodes on the ladder. And I think like, to your point, like I think like if we say like this is a radical idea and I don't think it should be implemented, but say for example like usernames are unique for a second.
Okay.
And everyone on ladder has a unique username, and like I go up against barcode 1, and now I kind of know how barcode 1 plays, and that means like I can counter his builds, and then we can actually like after the game we can have an honest discussion of like how he could have countered me, how I could have countered him in certain scenarios. I think like I think you explained it really well. Like that really grows the scene for me. Like, and I think that's like people will improve much faster if barcodes weren't a thing.
Yeah. Sorry, did you say you agreed with the barcode player that it should be kept, or did I misunderstand?
Oh, I think you misunderstood. I agreed with Rotty's point that barcodes should be discouraged.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. I think the pylon show said they're going to try and get some pros on to discuss it, to see like the other side of it. So
definitely. I always like I'm a massive advocate of like seeing both sides of the coin.
Absolutely, yeah.
Especially on something like this, because like I think like the classic excuse for this is that it gives people more pure practice of like if they wanted to grind out one build.
But that's what I think. That's what custom games are for. But
exactly.
There are things for it. But part of why I wanted to bring this up was because something that has been on my mind a lot, and I Roy didn't mention it, but it kind of falls within the same sort of thing, is random players. So when you pick random currently, and as it's always been in StarCraft 2, when you go into the match, it is player 1 is Protoss, player 2 is random, and it doesn't tell either player the race until the game starts.
Yeah.
And all races have separate MMRs now, and random is a fourth MMR.
Yeah.
So this makes like I don't like this. I don't like this style.
It does make life on ladder that much harder. Now I have had people in the past that have been like really nice to me, and like if I say good luck, have fun, they'll tell me their race. But I actually have had people like after I've said good luck, have fun, like kind of troll me and say, "Oh, I'm a Zerg," and then I scout them, and then they're a Terran, and I'm like halfway down the wrong tech tree at the start of the game.
Yeah.
And I seem to like now I just mistrust everyone because like I've had a couple of bad experiences. Yeah, I don't really like. There are ways to fix this, of course, because on the loading screen you could like it still could be like a fourth MMR pool, but instead of like saying random when loading into the game, it could show you what race you're about to play.
See, this is actually the thing for me. I actually think it shouldn't be a fourth MMR pool. I think the MMR pool, basically, it should, as you go into the game, it picks one of the three races and it loads you up, either ranked or unranked, depending on what you picked, as if you had picked that. I think that's the best way to deal with it, because the problem with having the fourth MMR pool, especially with random, is that if you have a main race that's 4,300 MMR like mine, and then you have an off race like Terran, which is for me, which is 3,900, and then Zerg, which is less than that. My Zerg is kind of awful, right? And then if I get my first 10, 15 games are mostly Zerg and Terran, and then I start rolling Protoss, like I'm going up against like 3,800, 3,900 players as like a much better Protoss. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand that the idea is that eventually if you exclusively play random, your MMR will settle out and you'll probably get a fairly consistent level of play. But I feel like realistically, people don't do that. People play a main race, maybe off race the others, and when they go random, depending on which race they get, they are significantly advantaged or disadvantaged based on what they roll. And the opponent doesn't know what they're against either. I feel like random is just kind of bad for everyone. And it goes... Oh, go on.
Sorry. I was going to say, like, to your point, like, say, for my struggles right now, like, I'm having a lot of trouble TVT. So, like, say if, like, I never rolled TVT, then my MMR would... And, like, say I was really good at, like, every other matchup under the stun except TVT. Like, my MMR would, like, skyrocket. And then as soon as I come against a Terran...
Yeah, you'd struggle there.
Yeah, I'd struggle. So, yeah, I guess...
That's why. And again, it's a similar thing to the barcode, where it's one player has an unfair advantage because you can't get true practice if you're unsure of the race you're up against.
Yeah.
Right? Because you either got an early scout, which puts you at a slight disadvantage, or you've got a... And this is what I do sometimes. I'll just, if they don't tell me, I'll pick a race and I'll go, oh, okay, I'm assuming he's Zerg. And I open as if I'm playing against Zerg.
Oh, okay. What I do is I go with like my most safe build. So my most safe build is against Zerg. So I normally just I open as if I'm going to play against Zerg. And if he is not a Zerg, then I can at least go to a 1-1-1 or something.
Yeah. But the other thing that I've wanted to do, and this is like the BM, this is pretty BM. I will say good luck, and then ask their race. And I fucking hate the sarcastic responses. It's like, I'm random. So yeah, like, you know that's not the question I'm asking. Stop being a dick. Right? But if they do that, and I've had periods of doing this before, because you don't face a lot of randoms, so I take the loss. I just leave instantly. I would love to get... This is like vindictive as shit. I would love to get a movement going for like everyone under Diamond and fucking Diamond or Masters, right? To just like unanimously agree to like leave every game against random.
That would get Blizzard's attention if random's just like shot up in show.
It's not even that. That's not the point about this, right? You get enough people to do that in their skill level. If their MMR goes up a few hundred points and they are at this disadvantage of not being equally good at all races, they're going to start getting crushed by higher players who then aren't doing it. Could you imagine like a bunch of like low master players start facing master 1 players on fucking. They're gonna get crushed every single game, and
Yeah.
then are they gonna start fucking being like, I'm random? No, they're fucking gonna learn to not be little shits.
Wow.
Sorry, I
Got
got into that
passion cracked for a minute there.
there. So yeah, but genuinely, I think a way to fix the problem so that everyone's life will be better is to have the MMR be the respective race that they are going up against, that they are playing as,
Yeah.
and for that race to be shown at the start of the game, and then that way it just becomes a normal thing.
I will say that I'm not actually a fan of the MMR showing up on the loading screen.
Oh, okay. Why is that though? May I ask?
Um, I don't know if I can give like a good reason for it, unfortunately. But like
No?
for me, like going into a game, I kind of like I know like for me because I've got the Masters badge or border around me now. Um, like I get quite a lot of cheese, and I feel it's because I've got the Masters
Yeah,
thing.
I get that.
I feel like if my MMR is in Diamond 1 and not Masters, that I should have the Diamond 1 border.
Yeah,
But
you
that's
gotta
like a separate issue. With the MMR, I kind of feel like there's people out there with like 4.8k MMR, but I've kind of mistakenly ended up there. Like for the year that I was off, let's say, my MMR like decreased, and say for example I was like at 4,500 when I left, and then I come back and I'm now at 3,800, and I go up against someone who's 3,800, and now they see like a 3,800 Terran and they're a 3,800 Zerg, and I absolutely kill them. Like I crush them because I'm just more experienced at the game. And even though I have taken like a year off, I've got that knowledge to fall back on, and I just crush them. That's gonna feel like really bad for them. But that's like a really particular circumstance because like I had to go away for a year, and then I had to go. I don't know. I just like for me, I don't think it's like I don't think like that's advantageous for Blizzard to put onto a loading screen.
No, that's fair. I can see that. I don't think it's a major thing, so I'm kind of with you there. But yeah, like that's pretty much all I had to say about the thing. I might do a Reddit post and see what other people think about the random thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to see what kind of the public opinion is, as it were.
Public opinion.
Yeah, there you go. Now you had an extra discussion point as well, I believe.
Yes, I did, and this is kind of an interesting one. Where this guy was kind of talking in all things Terran about Platinum 2 and like so he's a Platinum 2 Terran player and he's been facing quite a lot of Terrans. I think this is quite an interesting discussion because like now if you kind of I'm going to like skip over like one of the arguments that like Bronze, Silver and Gold League are kind of the stuff league. Okay, I understand that's a point, and if you don't know what a stuff league is like you basically win games just by having more stuff. So that's what stuff leagues are. And I completely agree that's a point. But like with different races, I think like there's different learning curves. And like when you play StarCraft 2, like I personally think that Terran is like the most like it's the easiest race to kind of pick up and play because like all of the all of the buildings are really straightforward. I mean, you've got the barracks, you've got the highest DPS unit in the game like right out of the gate, which is the Marine. You have like marauders, you have medevacs, you have tanks if you know how to build those. Like supply depots are not hard to build, and like it's kind of one of those things that you can pick up and play Terran and probably get to silver and gold just like very easily in my opinion. Whereas like Protoss, you kind of have to learn about the kind of power, like how to power buildings, like a bit more of the tech tree, like what each unit does, how the splash damage works, which means like the learning curve for Protoss is a bit higher. So
Okay.
Protoss will like probably break into the Silver and Gold League a bit later, which means that like a few like unskilled Protoss and Zerg players will be in Bronze and Silver. And then like
Right.
and then once they learn how all of their units function in an army, then they smash through to gold like very very easily.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So and again with Zerg, they have different mechanics, but like it's very similar. Like you kind of have to learn how drones and units work. You kind of have to know how inject works and creep works and
Okay.
how your upgrades works because there's
So,
like 5 different buildings for upgrades.
so would you say, to try and summarize your point there to make sure I'm understanding it, so would you say that Terran has a more linear sort of curve where as you get better skilled, the amount you can do goes up in like a kind of fairly linear, steady way. But with Protoss and or Zerg, you get this bit where you get plateaus where once you get the knowledge of understanding how to either use the army or how the mechanics work, you can have big upswings because it all comes together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For especially for the lower leagues.
especially yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking strictly for the lower leagues because I think later on when you get to like Diamond and Master, I think Terran has big plateaus, like very
Okay,
big
yeah.
plateaus. Whereas like I feel like personally like Protoss and Zerg have the more like what Terran had in the lower leagues, which is like a steady increase of skill means increase of
Steady.
skill.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, which kind of leads me on to the point of like race distribution in leagues, where like there's probably not a lot of Terran players in Bronze or Silver because like it's kind of so easy for Terran to kind of break out of those leagues because you kind of don't need to know a lot about the game and how units work because like the Marine can kill most things.
Yeah, if you've got enough of them.
Yeah, if you've got enough Marines, like that can kill most things. Whereas like if you're a Protoss, like Zealots and Stalkers kind of do okay, whereas like a few Colossus kind of do okay. And Zerg is like probably the worst race because like you kind of have to know the tech tree to get like the correct units to respond to your opponent while taking bases. So this means like if you get to a Platinum 2 level where this guy is at, you'll probably be facing quite a lot of Terrans because they're kind of hitting their first plateau of like they've just come out of the Stuffs League and they're hitting their first big curve of like, okay, now I actually need to learn more about the game. Whereas like I feel like if you can breach that plateau, you'll probably be facing quite a lot of Protosses and Zergs. Because like once that plateau has been like scaled, I guess, like that's where like the next linear curve starts, right?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I'm not gonna lie, I thought this was gonna be a different discussion.
Okay.
I thought this was gonna be about how the race's distribution is, and I know you've kind of like skirted around it by explaining why race distribution might be different in different leagues.
I guess that's my take on why
Okay, yeah. So
races
just
are different, like are placed in different leagues. But we can totally talk about like distribution in leagues if you want.
yeah, I actually didn't check out the Reddit thread that you linked before this, and it's about this Plat 2 guy who's had 10 in a row, TVTs in a row, and yeah, complaining there's a lot of Terran on ladder, and I think there is something to be said about it. Like the game can only be as balanced as can only have as many players of each race as people prefer, and unless something is ridiculously overpowered, I don't think you're ever going to see a real big swing in one way or the other. And yeah, I would say at a diamond level, Protoss is the least represented race. I play much less PvP than I do the other matchups. But yeah, I think it's interesting. Unfortunately, I used to think there was a lot to glean from this. I used to think there was a real lot you could see in that. Protoss are there's a bunch of Protoss in Gold League, but then so few in Platinum and Diamond and Masters. But then back in GM, it becomes even again, and maybe that means that you that once you like start progressing and start understanding, you accelerate really quickly. But I don't know. I just don't think it's the case. So it's interesting, and I feel like the frustration of not playing enough of one matchup is awkward. I kind of wish there was like a preference on the ladder where you could say, "Oh, try and find me a PVT," or "Try and find me this," but I don't know how that would work either. So, and again, I don't know. I think why is such an interesting or such a difficult question to answer. I think you explained it quite well, though. That the races are different, so sometimes like players have very different plateaus.
Yeah, I think like that is just like my interpretation of the ladder. I will say there's probably a million reasons as to why this is a thing. This is just my thoughts on the matter. This isn't like a 100% this is how it is sort of thing, because I'm probably wrong in like several different ways, but
I love that cynicism.
well, I mean, it's right, because like more people, like I think I said in the Reddit thread that like more people kind of like, you know, pick up and like can really gel with one race. Take a Neeb for example. I believe that, I don't know if it's Neeb anymore. I think he used to play Terran and like
he did,
and was like really low masters, but then like when he picked up Protoss, like he got GM like really quickly. And like some people can kind of do that, like just gel with one race better than the other.
Yeah, just to be clear, Neeb was like Terran back in like 2011, and then he started like really showing up in like 2015, 2016. Like don't get me wrong, I know he got a lot better, but man, I've heard the Terran Terran is so much harder because Neeb like got amazing as pro. I think there's a bit more to it than that. But thing. I like to point out that Beyond used to be a Protoss player. That's always a fun one. So I think it's right. I think what I would like, I shouldn't say what I would like because we've kind of got it, is the ability to be able to play each race and know if we can get good with them or not. And now we have separate MMRs. I do actually think there's no reason not to, right?
Oh, definitely.
If you've been playing for, even if it's just a couple months or even if it's for years, like you should try the other races on ladder.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to see, like it either gives you the blanks into the knowledge of when you think something is so strong. Because trust me, if you think something is so strong, just go and play it and do it. You'll soon find out what it's weak against.
Yeah, definitely. I've done that a million times. I don't know how many times when I was in Platinum I was like complaining so much about like Zealot Colossus being like so powerful, and then like I think like it was either you or Kane who was like, oh yeah, why don't you just go try it on ladder? And, like I played like 10 games and just got absolutely destroyed by like drops and like Vikings, and I was just and then like that improved my game.
It does. And now, like I say, it's separate MMR, so there's really no excuse not to.
Yeah, back in the day, it didn't used to be different MMRs.
No, yeah,
you had to like if you were awful at Protoss, you had to take a big sucker punch to like play Protoss. But now there's absolutely no excuse. Apart from, I will say one thing that I do hate, and this is like going kind of back to my complaint before about like how my MMR is Diamond 1 and my border is Masters. Like if I actually play as Protoss, then it like shows
the league.
My highest league border, which I think is wrong.
Yep, completely agree with that. That is put me off actually for a few seasons. There I played pretty much purely unranked. And I played unranked for that exact reason. So I wouldn't get because at that time my Terran was awful. My Terran and Zerg were both awful. So I was like gold platinum with those races, while diamond with Protoss. And it was not worth having the diamond portrait and then going against gold players who would like complain. So yeah, it's really silly that it's meant to be an accolade, and I get it. Like you want to show off that you're in Masters if you got the Masters badge, but that doesn't mean if you're playing against gold players, like it's just not good for anyone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, I don't know if I have much else to add about that.
No, I thought it'd just be fun to kind of throw out some ideas and.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Like I say, a preference on ladder would always be interesting, but otherwise, custom games is the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right though. Unless something is like hideously unbalanced, I don't think like the ladder will lean one way or another too harshly.
Yeah,
but I think like certain races get represented more at certain levels, and there's reasons behind that. There's very interesting reasons. What I did is just kind of threw my hat into the ring there.
No, I like that a lot actually. Like, yeah, I just don't. I don't know. I've stopped looking at it so much recently, I think. But yeah, good stuff.
Cool. So
and
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I want to do some shout outs, but yeah, that was the Depot Show 2. Oh baby,
yeah,
we did it. We did it. Cool. So shout outs. Exo, now you disappointed me last time. Shout something out.
Protoss OP. Do we go for that classic dead meme?
Cool. Yeah, so this week I'm kind of hoping to do some videos on my YouTube channel of like I'm probably going to try and split them up into like macro strategy and micro strategy, and they'll probably be like a micro strategy 101 and macro strategy 101. I think like what I'll possibly do is like for my first introduction to like strategy of StarCraft 2 is actually really, and I know this sounds really boring, but like dig into the Marine versus like the Zergling Baneling war, and like how splitting can help, and like why people split and things like that.
And over micro.
And like, over micro, yeah, definitely.
Big thing over micro.
And I think like even though like that sounds boring, it will like really help me. It will leverage me to kind of talk about how different splash damages work in the game. Like the Baneling splash damage is different from the Colossus splash damage, which is different from like Storm splash damage. I think like starting at such like a introductory level will really help me.
Yeah, I think doing stuff like that can really reaffirm how much you know about it, or sometimes it can show just how much you don't know about it. Because you're like, oh yeah, you split for this reason. It's like, but when you actually start testing it, sometimes splitting isn't the best answer. And like that's how you like over micro can be like such a fault.
Over micro is definitely a thing that happens a lot, and I'll hopefully talk about that a lot more.
Yeah, one thing at a time.
Yeah, one thing at a time. The next thing is, again, if you like the show, follow me on Twitter. I don't really do any advertisements for the show on Twitter yet. Maybe I should. That's at Jero550 on Twitter. And my YouTube channel, again, if you're watching this video, you're probably already on my YouTube channel. Again, hopefully I'll have some videos this week. And last one is Exo Lightning. I'll
always be here for you, buddy. Always be here for you.
I love this.
The passion is real. Passion is real.
Yeah, Exo is a very dear friend to me. We kind of dragged ourselves out of Platinum League together into Diamond, into Masters, back into Diamond.
Diamond, yeah.
And I hope that he'll always be here for me.
Of course, man, of course.
Awesome.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Awesome. Anyway, thank you, Exo, for being here.
Cheers.
Thank you, anyone, for watching this. That's us.
And have a good week in StarCraft.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.